6 years, our kids have played that game. For most, the journey begins with hope, faith, and promise. But as the leaves begin to fall, programs, power, and pride begin to emerge in victory and defeat. The individual, the collective, all striving towards one goal, the Vanier Cup. Today, the road to our national championship continues live on The Score.
Exactly 1 week ago, 4 teams lifted their trophies and celebrated their conference championships. Their jobs, however, are certainly not complete. Today, a CIS double dip live on The Score. The Uteck Bowl features the Laval Rouge, Canada's most decorated football program in recent years. With 3 Vanier Cup championships in the last 4 seasons, the word dynasty has entered the conscience of every opponent they face.
The 2006 Vanier Cup champions, le Rouge de l'Université Laval.
But in their way stands the Atlantic champions from St. Mary's, who are led by Heck Triton nominee Eric Lavich.
Lavich to O'Neill, touchdown St. Mary's.
The Huskies were humbled the last time they played Laval and have more than revenge on their minds.
A huge day of university football on The Score. Later today, Manitoba takes on Western. But coming up now, it's the Uteck Bowl, the #1 team in the country. The Laval Rouge taking on #4 St. Mary's Huskies, live from Halifax, Nova Scotia. And welcome to Husky Stadium. I'm Adnan Burke. It is great to have you with us. Laval head coach Glenn Constantine said New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick told him, in order to make history, you've got to forget history. But it would be folly to do that over what these teams have done. Laval in 2006, the Vanier Cup champions, beating Saskatchewan 13-8. But prior to their run of dominance, it was the St. Mary's Huskies who won back-to-back Vaniers in 2001 and 2002. In fact, these two teams have won 6 of the last 8 Vanier Cups overall. Laval is 6-2 all-time against St. Mary's. Those Vanier Cup wins in 99 and 2003, and they're seeking an unprecedented 4th Vanier Cup in 5 seasons. The Rouge in their 5th straight national semifinal. St. Mary's in this position, first time since 2004. These two clubs met earlier this year. Laval winning 29-22 October 13th in Quebec City. But of course, things are much different now. With more on today's game, let's join the guys calling the action, Arash Madani and Larry Justanis. Guys.
All right, Adnan, thank you. And these two teams have been on a collision course all year, but it almost didn't happen. St. F.X. led St. Mary's 26-20 last week in the Atlantic Final until Eric Lavich led a 4th quarter drive, and the Huskies quarterback with over 300 all-purpose yards got it done for the team when they needed it most.
Yeah, he definitely is the X-factor we talked about in this game. He's a bigger version of Chris Flynn. We talked about how great his running ability is, a great throwing ability. But what I really admire about Eric Lavich is his will to win. That was shown last week in the 4th quarter against St. F.X.
He's the nominee for the Atlantic Conference for the most outstanding player in the country. In his way, a Laval defense anchored by the nominee for the most outstanding defensive player in the nation in Eric Miranda.
Yeah, he leads this Laval defense, but Laval isn't a one-man wrecking crew on defense. They play a team concept, and they return 2 guys on D-line that didn't play against St. Mary's the first time they played.
Laval has won 4 national championships, and in those Vanier Cup victories, given up a combined 26 points. As impressive as their defense is and has been, special teams, Larry, could be a huge factor today.
Huge thing. That's the weakness of St. Mary's right now. Last time they played, this man, Dwayne John, returned a kickoff. He was a difference maker. He returned it from 93 yards to the 3-yard line. Laval punched it in and then went on to win the game against St. Mary's.
Last week against Concordia in becoming Quebec champions, it was the ground attack for the Rouge or. Pierre-Luc Yao with 3 touchdowns, 2 on the ground, over 100 rushing yards, and St. Mary's is key. They've said it all week, players and coaches, is stop the run against a great cutback rusher.
He's a great running back for this team, Laval. They love to run the zone scheme. Yao likes to cut back, bounce it to the outside, and they need to stop that St. Mary's to stop that edge.
Laval has the most outstanding player on defense in the Quebec Conference. In Atlantic Canada, it's Tim St. Pierre, a senior from Hamilton, and the outside linebacker yesterday told us we need to stop the run and stay in our lanes.
Yeah, they really need to put pressure on with their front 7. Last week they got torched by St. FX running into the edge, so they need to really have that front step, 7 step up.
It was yesterday after the St. Mary's final walkthrough that St. Pierre said, we don't feel this is going to be our final practice of the year. Somebody also hoping that's the case is with our Adnan Burke.
All right, thanks a lot, Arash, here with head coach Steve Samara, St. Mary's coach. Eric Glavich, this could be his coming out party today. Most of the country hasn't seen him. What did you tell him in preparations for today's game?
The big thing is just relax. Just play his game. I mean, he's a runner, he's a passer, and if he stays within himself, he'll be fine.
You talked earlier this week about how Laval Rouge, they have that mystique about them. They're like Goliath. Yeah. How do you be a giant slayer?
Yeah, the first thing is you can't make mistakes. They won't make mistakes, so if you can match them and no mistake for no mistake, you got a chance.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck today.
All right, appreciate it. Take care.
Let's go back to Arash Madani.
This is the 8th meeting between the Rouge and the Huskies. Laval has won 6 of them, and we have the Uteck Bowl in the first game of our doubleheader coming up live from Halifax, Nova Scotia, next on The Score.
University Rush on The Score is brought to you by Desjardins and by Wilson, the official football of the CIS.
Live from the campus of St. Mary's University, they're expecting a capacity crowd at Husky Stadium on a day that is perfect for football in mid-November. Arash Madani, Larry Justanis, Adnan Burke, and our entire Score crew here for the 2007 Uteck Bowl, the Laval Rouge wire to wire, #1 in the country. They are getting set to kick off against the champions from the Atlantic Division, the St. Mary's Huskies. And Christopher Milo will put the toe to this football to begin a doubleheader of university football here on The Score. Sean White from his own 6. Brought down at the 23, a 17-yard return as Eric Glavich brings on the St. Mary's offense.
He leads the offense with Lumbala. They need to have Lumbala have an effective game, and Sean White is a mismatch that they want to execute with.
St. Mary's.
Led by 2 conference all-stars in Linsky and McNeil, they need to get a good push up front for this O-line against this front 7 of Laval, because they play base defense, but play it effectively.
Isaac Robinson, the right tackle, a 4-time conference all-star, the only active player remaining from the 2002 St. Mary's Vanier Cup winning team. Jacques Lumbala picks up 3. St. Mary's talked about the importance of rushing, and Laval knows they have to stop the run as well.
Yeah, they definitely do, Rush. And they have a great front 7. They returned 2 D-linemen that didn't play in that last game, Cormier and John. And they have a great active linebacking crew in all those 3 guys, led by Miranda. And their DBs, they play a zone defense concept and not really challenge in man-to-man type of activity. The corners are a little small, and I think St. Mary's may have an advantage in that size matchup.
Jean Petit-Frere with 2 interceptions in these playoffs matches his regular season total for picks. Glavich with time, complete, first down St. Mary's. Pass hauled in by Ryan Warburton.
That's a nice play there by Glavich. What I really like is the O-line giving him time to protect him. Gives a nice pass, 3 or 4 seconds there, found Warburton for a first down. Laval plays that base defense. What they want to do is they expect an offense to make mistakes throughout the game. So they're going to make you drive the length of the field, not put too much pressure on you with the 5 or 6 man rush.
Steve Samara, the head coach, also the offensive coordinator of the top offense in the country. Lumbala again, who eclipsed the 1,000-yard rushing mark this season. He collects 7 to bring up 2nd and short.
We're actually talking to Coach Samara this week. They're actually coming out with a scheme they talked about. We talked about a 3-2 set with 3 receivers to one side and 2 to the other. What they want to do is get Miranda out of the box. What I mean by that is Miranda comes out and covers Sean White. When he's removed from that box, they're going to run right to that side.
And they said the critical key to our game is going to be running the football, and then that sets up play action, which they really want to do. Second call at 4. Delayed draw off the gun. Lumbala goes nowhere, and 1 first down on the opening Huskies series will bring on the punting unit.
It's interesting on that play. We talked about Laval playing base defense. What they brought there was what we call hammer. Number 14, Berube came on a blitz from the halfback. The safety rolled over, and front 7 did a good job there in stopping Lumbala and getting the first down.
John Constantine, the Laval head coach, said it's going to be important for us to be disciplined on defense, stay in our lanes. We play our style of defense, and that's not going to get altered no matter what opponent we play. So 1 first down for the Huskies. Justin Pilardi, the sophomore from Truro, Nova Scotia, who averages 33 yards on punts, and this swirling wind gets end over end that's going to be returned by Victor Tremblay. They are going to do their best, St. Mary's, to keep the ball out of Dwayne John's hands as the Laval offense comes on the field.
Yeah, we haven't talked about their quarterback, Hernandez, who's done a tremendous job coming in for Gruel. The leading guy here is Yagu. They need to establish that run game, keep Hernandez to manage the football game for them. And talking to Coach Constantine before the game, he says, you know what, we can have Emmett Smith back there, but if these 5 guys can't block, it doesn't matter what we do. And they returned 2 guys that didn't play last game against St. Mary's.
Cesar Roberto Sanchez Hernandez had his 2nd start ever against St. Mary's last month. And there is Tim St. Pierre, the most outstanding defensive player in the conference, opening with a sack.
That's a great play for St. Mary's. Like we said, St. Mary's front 7 at the beginning of this game needs to get pressure on the quarterback, stop that run. Tim St. Pierre, tough Hamilton kid, comes through on a nice sack on the first play. And then their DBs, you know what? Zielinski, Borat, Birthright, Bizark, these guys can play and they can cover receivers. What's surprising about Laval is they came out in a spread offense, which I didn't think they were going to do. Talking to Coach Constantine, I thought they were going to run the ball, but they come up with a new game plan.
Sanchez now from the gun, looks over the middle, nearly intercepted by Ryan Benjamin. And St. Mary's defense is ready to play. That's 2 outside linebackers making big plays.
Terrific start, Rash. Just great depth by the linebacker getting back. They really need to make that play, though. To be in this game, those are opportunities. They have to make that pick, get that field position, because what Laval does is they win the game with field position. Last week against Concordia, Concordia didn't start a drive past their own 29. Incredible. They make you drive the field. Benjamin's got to make that play next time.
Christopher Milo, Steve Sumera said, was the MVP for Laval when these 2 teams met at a Rocky Pep Stadium in St. Foy a month ago. They own the field position battle there, in a low punt, nearly blocked, going to be returnable. Here's Rasiopa, and Aaron Rasiopa will pick up a couple. Stop on the play made by Vincent Lehoux. So, partner, your keys to the game.
Yeah, which team will be special? We talked about that. Last game was, the game was won and lost by special teams. Laval won it. St. Mary's needs to tidy that up. Eric or Eric? Who will decide the game? Will it be Glavich or Miranda? Eric needs to get out to the edge. Miranda needs to stop that. We need to see if St. Mary's can create that mismatch in Miranda. And the last one, who has the edge? Last week, St. Mary's got torched for 300 yards rushing on the outside. Can Laval do that right now?
Steve Sumera said they wanted to go a lot of 2-back sets, and that sets up play action, which we get here. And the ever-elusive Eric Glavich runs away from Miranda. This is where he's dangerous. And the most creative way to collect 3 rushing yards shown by the Heck Crichton nominee from the Atlantic Conference.
That was exciting. You know, we just talked about that difference maker. Eric against Eric. Here he is. Miranda has a chance at him. He wheels back. What he does, he creates a nice false angle there. Miranda, you know what? That's the most exciting 3-yard play, and I think we're going to see that a little more today. But this is what troubled Laval last game. They have a problem with running quarterbacks. They play a great base sound defense, but when chaos, what I call the chaos, where quarterbacks start scrambling around, receivers start breaking out, that's when Glavich can be effective.
And Constantine told us his mobility makes him so effective. And here he is again, this time up the gut. And he's going to be close to a first down as he crosses midfield. And it might be decision time for Steve Sumera.
I like that call, though. It was a quarterback draw right from the start.
Sumera in his 2nd year at the helm, the offensive coordinator under the Blake Neal era. And this is going to be shy by less than a football.
Last week, minute 29 left against St. Avex. Samara had the ball, 3rd and 1 on their own 29. He went for it. He wants to win the game rather than lose the game, and he's going to go for it right here again.
They were 1 for 4 on 3rd down opportunities back on October 13th at Pep Stadium. Here, the crowd to their advantage at Husky Stadium. I formation, and Glavich will keep, and he will move the chains on his 3rd rush of this series and of the afternoon.
Gosh, I don't think St. Mary's could start off any better right now. You know, they've come out on defense, and I think that was the biggest thing they wanted to do. 2 and out. The wind is swirling, so I can't really tell you which is an advantage, but looked like we had a fumble there too, but St. Mary's recovered.
They will bring the chains out to measure. It looked as if Glavich did move the chains, and that's what he talked about yesterday. We just need first downs. We need to move this ball and control field position.
It's a big play right now. You know, you have a Glavich, a 6'6" quarterback. You got to go for those type of things and go for those inches. But you know, Laval, they got to, I guess, sustain. What I mean by sustain is that rush of St. Mary's are in a home crowd. Get through this first quarter without any points against them.
Laval, the number 2 ranked defense in the country, behind guess who? Here's the ball with the 4th-year man out of Calgary who barrels to the 45. His younger brother Steven with over 200 rushing yards and a couple of touchdowns for the St. Francis Browns, who won the Calgary City Championships earlier this week.
Yeah, I like Laval. A little hesitation there, finds that crease, gets 7 yards. That's what they want to do, have manageable 2nd downs for Eric Glavich. What they can do now is get that play action going, get him on what we call sallies, those boots, those nakeds, where Eric's really effective at getting out. What I love St. Mary's really wants to do is out formation Laval, and that's what they're trying to do with their different sets.
Tyler Schussler up the gut. Met at the line by Miranda, who had come down from his middle linebacker position. Roddy Jean also in there with a stop. St. Mary's wanting to eat this clock and keep that Laval defense tired. That's something Steve Stamera talked about. He said, we want to wear these guys down. Going for it again on 3rd and 1. They've gambled once and it's worked. As if it has again, with Glavich lunging over the top.
What's really interesting about that is they went no huddle on 3rd and 1. You don't really see that, so you can see the confidence Samara has right now. To be effective against this Laval defense, Samara's doing what you need to do. You need to run at them, not around them. They're too athletic, too fast on the edge. You need to go right at them. That's what they're doing with this line. Talking to Coach McNeil, they feel this has been the best week of practice, not just this year, in a couple years for St. Mary's, and the O-line's really showing it today.
Well, for the last month, the Huskies have only talked about Laval, and they survived a scare against St. Francis Xavier a week ago. And now Glavich with a fresh set of downs. Incomplete to Warburton, the intended receiver. And Laval collapsed in the middle there defensively.
Yeah, Miranda, they got what they wanted, though. They got Miranda outside on their slot receiver. That's the mismatch they talked about. What they want to do now is take that shot of running the ball where Miranda leaves the box.
There's a good look at Eric Miranda, who will be headed to Toronto. Will his teammates be with him next week? Leading tackler on this Rouge team, the senior who is up for the President's Trophy as the top defensive player in the country. This man up for the MVP in the nation, Eric Glavich. Incomplete, misfiring this side of the field, intended for Fraser O'Neill.
You know what, though?
Great offensive series for the Huskies.
Yeah, it was, and that's what Samara talked about this week to me. He talked about putting them in a 4-1 set, 4 receivers to the wide side. What Laval does is they bring the halfback over from the other side, they bring the free safety down, they got man-to-man coverage on the backside. That's a throw Eric's got to make, though, for him to win this game, because it's an easy pitch and catch. That's what they need to do for 10 yards.
So Flaherty on for the 2nd time today. Dwayne John is back there. He torched St. Mary's for a 93-yard kickoff return a week ago, and they want to keep it away from him.
Watch your hand. That's on your man.
Beautiful kick by Pilardi, angles it out of bounds. And the Rouge will be pinned when they have their second offensive series here in the first quarter.
The trivia question of the day is, who is the only team other than Laval or St. Mary's to win the Uteck Bowl? Do you know the answer? Well, if you do, log on to thescore.ca for your chance to win a fantastic Russell prize pack.
This may be as key an item to look at today, this swirling wind here in downtown Halifax. A factor for Cesar Sanchez, the quarterback for the Laval Rouge took over midway through the season from Mexico, recruited by Glenn Constantine at the Global Junior Football Championships in Houston, Texas. And Constantine telling us he is one cool customer as Pierre-Luc Yao met in the middle by the linebacker.
I tell you, Rouge, this couldn't be a better start for St. Mary's. You know, we talked about that key to the game, the special teams. They pinned them deep twice now. They've stopped the run game on first down again. Make Hernandez beat them. That's what they want to do. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, though, talking to Coach Constantine today, that we'll see Grew a little bit in this game later on, too.
Yeah, Benoit Grew began the season, played the first 4 games, was the Heck Crichton nominee for Laval a year ago from the Quebec Conference for National Player of the Year. A high ankle sprain sidelined him. He is now healthy, but they go with the hot hand of Sanchez, who finds Marc Remillard over the middle, and the Rouge with the first down. A pickup of 16 there for Remillard, the sophomore from Richelieu.
Yeah, Sanchez does a great job. It's what we call a hot read. 6 guys rushing, 18's left alone. He finds them, gets the first down, gets them out of a bad situation right now.
3 Laval receivers are injured in this football game. Their leading receiver is down, and last week, Guillaume Blain-Normand, who was huge against Concordia, hurt himself in practice. He is out. Again to the air, again complete. Pierre-Luc Yao, the running back who was outstanding on the ground last week. And he is going to be close to a first down, about a yard shy, as Mark Beswick makes the tackle, the outstanding corner from Vancouver.
Now, this is what we expected of a guy named Gruel if he plays pitch and catch. What they like to do with Laval is spread that offense out, catch the ball in the trigger position or that gun position, throw the ball quickly before the rush can get to them.
1 yard needed for the first down, attained by Yao, and then some. Al Birthright with the stop, but not before the 5th-year man collects 11.
Yeah, that's a great run, but it all starts, Laval likes to run to the right side. These guys average 330 pounds on that side of the ref. What they do is they get that zone blocking. What they're great at is getting to the second level and getting up to those linebackers. All that team unison on that O-line worked very effectively there. We talked about Yao. He's a great cutback runner. When you run zone, you'll be able to cut back or bounce at the outside, and he did that on cutback.
He told us yesterday he tries to visualize the play before it happens, and they continue to run with the meal ticket. He had 120 yards on the ground against Concordia. This time he collects 6.
You know what? To settle your offense down, they got that first down through the run game, and now they're getting back to what they do. Run that ball, run it behind that huge O-line, that 335-pound average on the right side, and they were so patient in finding those holes.
Doing his master's in business administration at Laval, Pierre-Luc Yao. Glenn Constantine said, we got to find a way to make this kid work, and he was just raving about him this week for everything that he does for this program. Incomplete, intended for Dwayne John over the middle. Coming down was a 3 safeties, Celine Borhat.
Interesting seems though, Rouge, what Laval's done is they come out on a 3-3 set. Empty backfield, 3 receivers to the right side, 3 receivers to the left side. What St. Mary's doing is countering back. They're playing straight man-to-man and bringing 6 guys. So there's going to be a potential for a big play when there's a free safety not in the middle of the field.
Well, Borhat came down there, but Laval, and we continue to talk about the importance of field position and ball control. They collect 45 yards on that series. Remember, they were pinned at their own 8 to begin the drive.
You know, talking to Coach Samara, they can't make mistakes as in St. Mary. Laval is a patient football team and wants to win the field position battle.
Reloads punt, rolls out of bounds at the 27. A 30-yard punt. St. Mary's will take over with Glavich on their 3rd series after this. These people know how to watch a game inside from their end zone dormitory on a relatively cold day, but for mid-November, these weather conditions brought to you by Wilson, the official ball of the CIS. For a guy who played his university football in this province, this is pretty good for this time of year.
It's terrific weather. You know, a little bit of swirl, but heck, you gotta love it, because yesterday was a terrible day.
Bala rumbles for 6. Rain, wind, you name it here. Flights were delayed and canceled coming into Halifax. Partner, you and I got in the night before. We weren't sure if the rest of our crew was going to get here.
I could be on air right now, but I like what St. Mary's doing right now. Run that rock. 2nd and 4. Getting a manageable second down. What you're going to see now is Glavich can start pulling that ball. He has freedom to pull it any time. Get on those nakeds and sallies. Get on that edge we talked about.
2nd and 4 yards to go for Lambala, who crosses the 36. Lost the football, was down by contact. And now it becomes interesting. They're about a yard shy of a first down. Do they gamble a 3rd time?
I don't think so. I think the punt team's coming up. A nice play by Etienne Leger there. Came across the trap, blocked the counter, and made a nice tackle and ball in the backfield.
So St. Mary's, which has talked about moving the sticks all week long, they are held to a 2-and-out for the first time today. Pilardi will come on to punt for the 3rd time this afternoon.
And this is what Laval...
And you can hear the wind.
Yeah, this is what Laval wants to do. Look at what's happening now. The field position. Dwayne John's probably going to catch at his own 40. They've established it. They're starting to get back to what we talked about. Last week in Cordy had to drive the length of the field. It's very difficult against a good defense to score, not just once or twice against on field. But we have a great defense here in Laval that manages the game and manages the field position. This is crucial for St. Mary's.
John back to return. A great punt by Pilardi. They hit him near the sidelines. And he will pick up 9 on the return. Tim St. Pierre on the tackle after a 45-yard booming blast from Justin Pilardi. Still scoreless in Halifax. And of course, all roads lead to Toronto. Next week, the Desjardins Vanier Cup. Your tickets now at vaniercup.ca. Will be inside Rogers Centre on a terrific weekend of football in downtown Toronto. Our pregame show will start at 6:30. Kickoff is 7:30. One of these two schools, Laval or St. Mary's, will meet one of Western or Manitoba, of course, the Mitchell Bowl, the second half of our doubleheader. Rush from Danny, Larry Justanis, Adnan Burke here in Halifax as Cesar Sanchez begins the 3rd Laval series. They come out throwing again. The pivot with time and incomplete, intended for Dwayne John. Salim Borhat and Ryan Benjamin there in coverage.
What's interesting is I watched the film of Laval and Concordia this week, and the one pass Sanchez has a difficult time as what we call the dig or the end. This is the route. He continuously threw it over people's heads, and he did it again here. You can watch for that because Borhat may have a chance to get an interception later on in the game playing that free safety position.
Sanchez pretty effective against Concordia. 19 of 24, 244 yards passing with a touchdown in the air and rushed for one as well. 2nd and 10 over the middle, wide open. Laurent Lavine-Masse, and it's incomplete. There on the coverage was Jeff Zielinski, as good a corner as you're going to get.
Yeah, they caught a break there, St. Mary's. What happened is they went in that 3-3 set. Those 3 receivers got the free safety out of the box. We show this right now. So the free safety's here. He's low right now. We roll that play. He's coming downhill. Sanchez does a great job with his eyes, looking left, comes back right towards the seam on the right-hand side. 6 points. Wasted there by Laval.
Dropped by Mask, and what an opportunity. He caught a touchdown pass against St. Mary's in their last meeting. You're talking about a guy who's 9 touchdowns on the season, most in Quebec. Christopher Milo nearly blocked. Rasiopa from his own 33 steps out of bounds. Special teams and field position, as expected, the keys in rowdy Halifax. Oh yeah, they've been waiting for this here in Halifax for a long while. The Uteck Bowl returns home. It was the Atlantic Bowl for many years, and partner, 12 Novembers ago, you were the quarterback for Acadia representing Atlantic Canada.
A long time ago.
Lost to Western. Here's play action. Glavich. Miranda on him. He flips it over the middle. Intended for Sean White, but that sailed way over his head.
That was good coverage down there by Laval. They went in man-to-man there. Miranda does a nice job. Contain Glavich. Keep him inside. Make Glavich stroll. That's what they want to do. They want him running around, creating that chaotic type of offense. It's a good job by Eric Miranda. They're not going to spy him today, as in Glavich. They're just going to play their base defense, talking to Coach Constantine. They think their front seven can handle Eric and his running ability.
Final minute of this first quarter. Second down, 10 yards to go.
Yeah.
Glavich looking for Fraser O'Neill, and it's underthrown. This ball getting caught up in the wind, but nice coverage by Jean Petit-Frere, the conference all-star, the fifth-year senior from Haiti.
Yeah, I like the call, though. We talked about that set earlier, where they go 4 receivers to the wide side. They bring the short side receiver over here. They get man-to-man coverage. Eric just has to get that ball in there. I know it's a swirling wind. You just got to chuck it and let his receiver have a chance at the ball.
So back-to-back 2-and-outs from the Huskies. They will punt. No yards gained on that series. And Pilardi, for the 4th time, steps on the field. This to Dwayne John from his own 37. And again, it's St. Pierre down there to make the tackle. The long snapper with back-to-back special team stops for the Huskies. Final seconds here in the first quarter at Husky Stadium. You're talking about two of the most prolific offenses in the country. St. Mary's tops in the nation. Laval tied for second. Between the two have combined for almost 700 points scored, and we are scoreless in the final half minute of this opening quarter.
You know what, I'm an offensive guy and I love to see points, but tied to Coach Constantine, I know it. Defense wins you championship. What I like what Laval's done is you can tell they're an experienced group. They withstood this emotion of St. Mary's in the first quarter, and now they're starting to get that field position back.
Play action big to Yao, incomplete. Dwayne John dropped it.
Yeah, that play is a Montreal Alouette play. I bet you if you watch the Alouettes over and over, that's Ben Cahoon in the slot, and that's where they got that play. It's a nice little play where he comes out off the play action and throws it inside. Dwayne John slips inside and swirls back out.
John, the 5th-year man from Montreal. 5 touchdowns on the season, including 1 against St. Mary's. And now on this final snap of the opening quarter, Sanchez from the gun. And he's incomplete, intended for Remillard. Hard to throw at Mark Beswick. And after 1 quarter of play, we are scoreless in Halifax, where defense has been the key for the Quebec and Atlantic champions in the 2007 Uteck Bowl. Game 1 of our CIS doubleheader today and all week. Keep it here on the score. Our road to the Desjardins Vanier Cup begins Tuesday and goes all the way until our post-game show wraps up Friday night. 7 o'clock, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then Friday, our pregame show at 6:30. We will be live from the CIS All-Canadians Awards Gala on the Wednesday. And it should be a terrific week right here on the score. Christopher Milo has the wind, and Aaron Rasioka has some room, but a terrific tackle. Guillaume Senecal with the tackle after a 44-yard kick by Milo. Well, we expected offense out of both these teams. We didn't get much.
Yeah, but looking at what the most important stat here for St. Mary's, that time of possession. They wanted to control the clock, establish that run game. I know they only had 36 yards rushing. We're talking to Coach Samara over the week. They can't make mistakes. They haven't done that. It's a game of field position right now. Laval, that's what they prey on. They prey on turnovers, and they go after jugular after that.
He said they make you pay, Laval. We'll get into that in a moment as Lamballo is met by Miranda.
after a pickup of 2. Laval last week against Concordia, it's a 1-touchdown game. The Stingers fumble the ball in the 3rd quarter inside their own territory. Laval turns it into a touchdown. The same in the 4th quarter, a 14-point swing, and the Rouge are outstanding at taking advantage of mistakes.
Yeah, that's what they prey on that. They play that base defense, that 40 front, 7-man in the box. They play a cover 3 scheme, but when you get that turnover, I love the coaching style. They go after, they attack it, they go after that first play and try to score right away.
2nd and 8. Here goes Glavich again. Roddy Jean got to him the first time. Miranda the second. They're going to be 4 yards short of the first down. So St. Mary's, which opened the game moving the football, is now being contained, and this Laval defense continues to get it done.
Yeah, Miranda does a nice job. You know, gets back into his drop, keeps Glavich from getting to the outside. That's what they don't want. Glavich on the outside, keep him inside those hashes, we call it, get those active linebackers to make a play.
So now Pilardi will have to kick into the wind. And Miranda, you know, Glenn Constantine told us he's a self-made man, a blue-collar worker, all those things you want in a football player. And he's up for the National Defensive Player of the Year. High, towering kick by Pilardi, and a terrific St. Mary's bounce that trickles out at the 30. A 39-yard kick, and they kept it out of the hands of Dwayne John. So an outstanding job by the 2007 Conference All-Star.
Yeah, that's what they talked about before the game. I actually asked Coach Smith, are we going to punt the ball or kick the ball to John? He said no. Pilardi's done a great job of angling the punts. I know Terry Baker's been working on him this week, getting it out of bounds. He's getting some good height on the ball, grabbing it, coverage. But watch out that Tim St. Pierre is leaving a little early there. He almost had that punt loss. That's the one thing to watch later on in the game, possibly.
Pilardi's alma mater, the CEC High School Cougars, playing a semifinal playoff game tomorrow in Truro. But here it's Pierre-Luc Yao who gets 5 on first down.
35-yard line.
That's a nice patient run by Yahoo again. You know, gets to that left-hand side, sees that hole, cutting back, stumbles a little bit, gains 5 yards. Very effective running the football, getting a manageable 2nd and 5. Sanchez is a little different than Gruel. Gruel, you know, he's taking him to the Van A. You can play what we call pitch and catch, get back into that gun, throw the football, quick drops. Sanchez is more of managing the game. I think that's what Laval is doing throughout these last few games. Manage the football, win that field position, and go after that juggler when we talked about it.
Well, that's one thing Yao talked about Sanchez. He said he is a good game manager. 2nd and 5, incomplete, intended for Remiard again.
And I think Remiard got caught up there on the umpire and stopped running. Good play by Sanchez again, sees the hot read. Quick little drag underneath. Remiard's got to keep running through that ball, run through that box. So they're slowing down there to that first down. Great start though, for the St. Mary's Huskies. This is what they wanted to do, right? Samara talked about it. So no turnovers, no mistakes. That's what Laval preys on. You can see Laval even though Laval has moved the ball, they're still mistake-free in that sense.
I want to talk about this after the break, but Sanchez begins the game 1 of 8 passing for 17 yards. Benoit Gru, last year's Heck Crichton nominee from Quebec, who took them to the Vanier Cup and a title a year ago, is waiting and healthy after recovering from a high ankle sprain. You got to wonder when and if Glenn Constantine thinks about giving Sanchez the hook. Rasiopa from the 39 gets a terrific block by King. And he will pick up 8 on the return after a 36-yard kick. St. Mary's and Glavich come onto the field as we're scoreless from Halifax.
You know, we talked about St. Mary's being physical in this game, Rash, and this is what you want to see. Jeff King there hammers that guy, but I loved about it. He comes back again, hits another guy. That's what St. Mary's wants to establish the physicality in this game.
This guy likes to lay some hits too, and he's the quarterback, Eric Glavich. I asked him where he got his aggressiveness from. He said, hey, I got 2 older brothers. They used to beat me up all the time. Sasha and Marco Glavich, both accomplished football players. And Glavich is complete to Sean White. A pickup of 11. That'll be good for a first down. The Huskies in Laval territory for the 2nd time this afternoon.
Yeah, what I like about this play is Glavich is a controlled sprint up. When ball is out here getting a nice block, What happens though is Laval scrapes to the right. Miranda's looking up a receiver, but he does a nice job of throwing against his body. Find that window for a first down for St. Mary's.
White, the second leading receiver on this Huskies team. Senior from Montreal, he knows all too well what the Laval Rouge or juggernaut is about up in Quebec City. One ball off the gut. Miranda strips the football, but the Huskies do recover. Lambala coughed up the football and lost one at Laval, and he said yesterday, he said, it's my job to protect the football. We can't afford turnovers, and they get away with one there.
Yeah, they got away with the Glavich one earlier too, but as you can see, it looks like Glavich got snapped a little late there and almost ran into his guard and tackle. But the one thing about Laval, you know, you got to protect the football like you talked about, because once they pounce on it, they're going to come back and try to score right away.
Lambala had 69 yards rushing at Laval a month ago. Complete a pass, far side of the field to Fraser O'Neill, the senior from North Vancouver, is going to be short. Eric Glavich, I mean, this is his second year with the St. Mary's Huskies. And look at, you know, some of these numbers. He's a Heck Crichton nominee, and I tell you what, he rushes for almost, he's rushed for more yards than Pierre-Luc Yao did this year.
Yeah, that's, you know, he is such an exciting player. We really haven't seen him. We saw that exciting 3-yard run, you know, in the first series, though. We need to get him out on that edge. We're starting to get that play action. He's more effective when he's outside that pocket throwing the football, too, so he only has to read half the side of the game. It's only his second year. He's going to get better, but right now, make it easy for him. Half the field reading, make it effective for him.
Averages more than 60 rushing yards a game. Here's Dwayne John. He puts the ball on the ground. A penalty marker on the play. The Huskies have recovered. Now, will it count? That's the question.
Rash, that's what they want to do. They pump the ball in what we call coffin corner. Get Dwayne John pinned in that corner. Nice strip here to number 4.
Let's hear the call from Peter Eady, officiating his 12th bowl game.
On Laval, penalty is declined. First down.
First big break of the game goes to the Huskies.
Yeah, you know what? We talked about breaks, right? There's a nice play by number 4. He strips the ball on Dwayne John right here. You know what? They talk about winning the Vanier Cup. You got to have good athletes, you got to have a good coach, you have a good team, but you also got to be lucky and get those type of bounces. St. Mary's been lucky with 2 of them. They recovered the 3rd one.
Mark Beswick said yesterday, you know, this is my last chance. He's a senior. 2 interceptions last week against St. FX, a forced fumble there, and now Glavich, pressured by Miranda. You got to think he's wants to throw it away. Tiptoes the sidelines, and then I tell you what, as incredible an incomplete pass as you're going to get. He never even thought about throwing the ball away.
No, he didn't actually. He had the ball in his left hand to use his right arm. I love that because he's thinking he may be using that stiff arm there. Actually, Fraser O'Neill makes a pretty nice catch with one arm too, but just he was out of bounds. But most exciting play of the day, and it's an incomplete pass. That's what we expect. That's what Coach Samara talked about.
Steve Samara is probable for a return from heart palpitations after that snap.
Looked like Fraser O'Neill had that catch, you know, 1 foot in.
He was bobbling the football.
Just got to give it to him for the effort Glavich gave you, though.
You see the elusiveness, the athleticism of this 21-year-old sophomore, who's complete this time to Ryan Warburton. His second catch of the afternoon.
What I love about this play is this guy doesn't come over. Once Glavich sees that, he gets away from the weak side. What he does, he comes back to that strong side, lots of patience, throws it underneath. Those linebackers expand the Laval. When they expand, what I mean by expand, you got to get inside those linebackers, make those first downs. Great read by Glavich. They're going away from the weak side.
And now the crowd of almost 6,000 here at Huskies Stadium beginning to come to life. Inside the red zone where the Huskies have been so effective. 40 of 45 on the season. Glavich, Warburton, complete. A pickup of about 6. A tackle made by Sebastien Sejan, the halfback who looks more like a linebacker at 231 pounds.
Yeah, he's a big guy out there, and that's why they like to play that cover 3 zone, right? He's not as athletic as the other DBs, but I like about Glavich. You catch it, get rid of that ball quickly, positive first down, you know, 2nd and 3 are manageable on the 5-yard line.
St. Mary's was 5 for 5 in putting up points at Laval in the red zone. They had 2 passing touchdowns. 2nd and 3 from the 6. Glavich, the quarterback draw. Touchdown, Huskies, Eric Glavich.
This is a great start for the St. Mary's Huskies. A go after Joe. A great call by Coach Samara. Best athlete on the field, best player on the field. Keep it in his hands. Get that quarterback draw. He stretches that 6'6" torso to get inside the end zone. Couldn't ask for a better start for these Huskies.
All set up by the forced fumble by Mark Beswick. St. Mary's gets the ball at the 25, and they strike first as we near the midway point of the 2nd quarter. Eric Glavich had 85 yards rushing against Laval before, but he opens with a rushing touchdown here on the bowl game.
The all-stars in this game, but this is a heck of a play by an all-star right here in the center. We roll this. What he does is he goes after that one technique, and then he comes up and gets into Mac, and that's what you want as an all-star. He chips up that 2nd level, gives that hole for Glavich to score. That's why Colin McNeil's an all-star in this conference.
And that's why Eric Glavich is as dangerous a player and the nominee for the National Player of the Year. His 6th rushing touchdown of the year. 5 came in the regular season. And the Huskies, 10-point underdogs, lead 7-0. Short kick by Pilardi, and they're really avoiding Dwayne John. Adnan Burke, you're with the man of the hour.
I am. Thanks a lot, Arash, here with Eric Glavich. You know, the rest of the country is finally going to get a chance to see what you can prove to them. How excited were you to play in this game today?
Really excited, you know. Anytime you play the #1 team ranks in the country, you know, it's got to be exciting. You know, you got to be excited to play well. So it's definitely really jacked up.
Both defenses have been playing tremendous so far today. What have you guys seen from Laval's D that you need to adjust to?
Everything what we expected. You know, they're a tough team, tough defense. You know, we just got to make a few adjustments. I won't tell national television. You know, Manitoba might be watching, so we'll keep that secret.
All right, thanks, Eric.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. 905. Pickford. Yeah.
All right, Adnan, thank you. That pass complete to Dwayne John. There is a penalty marker on the play. It'd be a pickup of 25 if it counts, which would be the longest offensive play of this game, and we'll see what Peter Eady and his crew will call. Offensive pass interference. This one's coming back.
Yeah, what they do is they do a little pick there for Dwayne John. You can see the athleticism of Dwayne John here. He's one of the top players in the country. Elusive runs, great routes for Laval. They want to get the ball in his hands as much as possible.
Offensive pass interference on the offense. 15-yard penalty. First down.
And an intelligent player, too. Glenn Constantine said we want to try and figure out a way to get him on our coaching staff next year after he graduates in his 5th year.
Yeah, he's a heck of like we talked about. When you can combine the athleticism and the brains, you have a great football player. And they want to give him the ball at least 10 to 20 touches today with the return game as well.
Well, that's a good shot of Benoit Gros. Glenn Constantine said he has a better understanding of our offense. And, you know, in the first 4 games, he was as dominant a quarterback in the league before he suffered the high ankle sprain. I asked you, Larry, we talked about it before. Sanchez has opened the game 1 of 8 for 17 yards passing. You have the most outstanding player in the Quebec Conference from a year ago waiting and healthy. If you're Glenn Constantine, do you think about pulling the trigger and making the move?
I don't know if he does it right now, but this series is paramount to Sanchez, I think. If he can establish, get some first downs, get that field position back, complete some throws. He's 1 of 9. Some receivers, you know, stopped running on him, so it's not all his fault as well.
He's got 5 receivers on 2nd and 19. Here comes this Huskies pressure, and this one's batted away by Billy D. Johnson, who Mike McLean said he's just got a knack for being around the ball. And he just swatted that away. Some good pressure coming up from Ian Shaw, the defensive tackle.
Yeah, they do a nice stunt in the front 7 there, but Sanchez got to get rid of that ball quicker. Levine Massey is open by about 5 yards. He puts up too much air under it. And then the deflection right there. Great stand by St. Mary's Huskies. That's what you want, right? You go down, you score. Last time they did that, Dwayne John returned one in the last game. They go down and score, come back. 2 and out, get the ball in good field position.
Huskies players shaken up on the field. Now this is a big blow if Jeff Zielinski is unable to return. You're talking about a 3-time conference all-star, number 2 in the Atlantic Conference with his 3 interceptions. And he had a pick against Laval back on October 13th, won last week against St. FX, and teams just don't throw his way.
Yeah, he looks like he might have injury to that ankle, so he jumped up there. Hopefully he'll get back in the game because we really need him.
The Huskies secondary already battered. Tyrone Roux is dressed. Usually the starting halfback, the 5th-year man, is playing with a slightly torn MCL in his left leg, in his left knee. Christopher Milo. Punts Taron Rasiopa from his own 45. He's tripped up by Sebastien Saint-Jean. Waiting in Winnipeg, Timothy McAuliffe, Dwayne Ford, and Glenn Sheeler for the Mitchell Bowl. The Cinderella Western Mustangs 0-4 to open the year. Our Yates Cup champions, they are visiting the Manitoba Bisons, who we saw last week. Manitoba and Laval, the only undefeated teams in the nation, 10-0 at this point. Should be a terrific nightcap to our doubleheader. Glavich has time. Glavich has Fraser O'Neill for a 7-yard pickup this side of the field. Fraser O'Neill injured for the better part of the opening half of the season. He missed the first game against Laval and then returned the game you and I did, partner. 7 catches, 118 yards against Acadia.
He's a big play receiver for him. What I really love is McNeil's offense line, giving Glavich time. You know, he scrambled a little bit there, found that open receiver for a nice gain of 7 yards.
2nd and 3. Shot from Balla. Met at the line by the way of Rouge. Marc-Antoine Fortin was the first one to hit him. And they're going to be shy of the first down. Well, the question is by how many?
Yeah, they've had success running that zone or running straight at Laval. When you start doing those counters and misdirection plays, they're too fast and too athletic. They get into the creases, they get into the seams, and make stops. Interesting call here by Coach Samaro, though, right?
Well, a very generous spot as well given to the Huskies there.
Timeout as well. You know, it's interesting. We talked about this off camera. You're interested to see how many times Laval has actually been behind this season in any game. What I love about St. Mary's is they're the underdog team. When you keep an underdog around, they get that momentum, they get that energy, they get that crowd behind them. You know what? You're coming into Husky town, basically, where that dog can't bite, as they say here. And you keep them hanging around, you never know what will happen, especially with a great athlete in Glavich.
Well, the Huskies have talked about confidence. It's time out to bring the sticks out to measure. And Steve Sumaras has instilled in this team that, hey, we can play with these guys, and losing by a touchdown, you know, in hostile territory.
It's interesting coming into the game. Coach Constantine was very confident because he was missing 11 starters from that game.
Sure.
But Coach Samara was confident because they went up there, played him well, controlled the game offense and defense, and just like they are today, the special teams let them down. Today they've done a terrific job on special teams in containing John, punting the ball away from him, and coughing corner punts.
Well, this is an interesting decision. You're shy by the length of a football. You're kicking into the wind, and Pilardi comes onto the field.
Yeah, but what has Sanchez and Laval's offense done so far? Why give them a break right now on the 50? You can make it a short field. You know, they can get a field goal out of this. Pin John deep. Make them drive. Do what Laval does to you. Make them drive the length of the football field.
Steve Samara for the last month said we've worked on our special teams. They've tweaked systems. They've brought on different personnel. Both teams with only 40 players. It's a national game, not their customary 42 or 45, depending on the conference. A flag flies as John is scuffed immediately. St. Mary's leads by a touchdown. 5:06 to go in the second. Dwayne John, such an electrifying weapon for Laval Rouge, has been held in check so far. And Larry, a holding penalty on that return. So Laval, pinned earlier in the game at their own 8, now begins at their own 10-yard line. It's under heat. And incomplete to Yao. That St. Mary's defensive front is bringing pressure, and the players were talking about yesterday. They want to get the receivers jammed at the line of scrimmage and get the pressure to make that defense work, and it has so far for St. Mary's.
They've done a nice job. That front set, when we talked about the intensity of St. Mary's right now is much more than Laval. Even looking at the sideline, enthusiasm in the Husky bench compared to Laval. Laval, the #1 ranked team, they're not used to this position right now. We'll have to see how they respond right now. They're a different offense when Gruel doesn't play. Watching last year and the beginning of this year, they're a pitch and catch football team. It makes good decisions, good reads. Sanchez is more of a management type of quarterback.
2nd and 10, under fire again. It's complete to Lavine Mas. Now Birthright with the stop. And they are going to be shy of a first down by a couple of yards.
Yeah, that's a nice pass rush right there. Get in his face. He does a great job coming to his third read, but St. Mary's did exactly what they wanted to do. 2 2-and-outs after that touchdown. Now they're going to get heck of a field position right now inside probably the 55-yard line. Short field for Glavich with 4 minutes left in this first half.
So the St. Mary's defense once again answers the call, and Sanchez gets his 2nd completion of this opening half.
Rash, what's interesting is we talked about how great this Laval defense is, this great Laval offense, but St. Mary's has done exactly the opposite to Laval. Controlled the field position and is winning this game on defense right now.
So Christopher Milo spent some time with the Alouettes in training camp, played a preseason game against the Toronto Argonauts at Molson Stadium, said that Damon Duval, the kicker and punter there, helped him out quite a bit. Here's Rasiopa, puts the ball on the ground, but will be a no-yards penalty regardless. 2 penalty markers on the field. Hey, partner, you seem to have it right. You talked about field position. You talked about, taking advantage of that. Let's go back to this. St. Mary's has been woeful in the regular season. What a difference they've made today in the National Bowl game.
We talked about who's going to have that edge in special teams. And now look what happened. They get a penalty, first down on the 34. What's interesting about that play is usually other coaches against the wind will actually take and concede that 2 points right there and kick it off and make the drive lane the field goal. Laval, they believe in their defense. They said, you know what, we're going to punt the ball, and now they're inside the 35 with less than 4 minutes left for St. Mary's.
2 critical special teams penalties, a holding on the return and then the no yards. And Glavich met by Miranda as he was throwing the ball. That's incomplete. I tell you what, this Eric Miranda, who is a draft pick of the Toronto Argonauts, is one heck of a football player.
Yeah, it really is. I talked to Mike O'Shea about him. He's a smart, intelligent football player. Comes through the A-gap there, makes a nice play on Glavich right there. That center, he's got to pick up somebody or jam somebody to give Glavich some time to throw that ball. We talked about who's going to get the edge. Eric, both players are showing why they're all-stars and why they're MVPs in their leagues.
2nd and 10 coming up on 3 minutes remaining in this opening half. Glavich going for the home run to Carl Harwood. Touchdown, St. Mary's. Carl Harwood. An outstanding grab, and the 14-point underdogs, the 10-point underdogs lead 14-0.
I love it. They get great field position. What do? They go man-to-man coverage weak side. He throws a terrific football in the air. Let Hardwick, one of their best athletes, go after and get it. You know what? We talked about that underdog role. No one gave this St. Mary's team a chance. I think someone did at the beginning of the game, but I'm not going to mention that. When you have a good quarterback and a great athlete in Glavich, you can come out as an underdog and win a football game.
Carl Hardwick is the leading receiver on the Huskies, and they are celebrating here in Halifax. Will Cinderella have an appearance in the Vanier Cup? The celebration is on in Halifax. The Huskies are up 14-0, but is this a touchdown by Carl Hardwick? Watch the football. Appears as if it hits the turf right there. Called a touchdown. No video review in the CIS.
Either way, I love the call because what they did is they picked on the big DB. When I talked about that big DB, Sebastian St. John, 6'1", 230 pounds, not the best man-to-man cover guy. They did a heck of a job of finding the man.
Here's Victor Tremblay on the return, and he gets to the 35, the biggest return of the afternoon for the Rouge or. Carl Hardwick had a touchdown catch against Laval in the regular season, 3 on the year, but that one that puts the Huskies up 14-zip. Wow. I mean, that ball goes off the turf. That's a clear incomplete pass.
It was, like you said, there is no replay, but now, you know what? It's 14-0. What's Laval going to do? How are they going to respond? I don't think they've been in this position at all year. It's interesting. They didn't give up that 2 points, Rouge. We talked about that. They came back to bite them. They went after the jugular. Glavich threw it up 7 points after not giving up the 2-point.
Here's Pierre-Luc Yao. He crosses the 40, rumbles to the 48. A hard run on a pickup of a dozen. Let's go down to Adnan Barake. Adnan, was that a touchdown?
Thanks a lot, Rouge. Well, if you ask Carl Hardwick, it certainly was. It looked like you might have juggled it a little bit. They hit the turf. They're calling it a touchdown. You'll take it, right?
Didn't hit the turf. It's a touchdown. We preached before the game, whatever it takes. Me and my guys were coming out here. We're the underdogs. We think we're a lot better than this team. They're a great team, but we thought we should have beat them up in Laval. And we're just whatever it takes to win this game. We want to go to Toronto,
How big has it been using that underdog mentality to fire you guys up?
You know what? We don't use that mentality. We come out here if we're playing an AUS team, a Q team. We use the same mentality. That's the offseason. We're saying we need to go undefeated. They killed our undefeated season, so that's our motivation to beat them right now.
Thanks, Carl. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Rouge?
Adnan, I tell you what, things are snowballing badly for the Laval Rouge or. Just as their offense starts to click, Pierre-Luc Yao is shaken up on this play. He catches the screen pass, and then immediately after the hit, he went down on one knee.
Yeah, it looks like his shoulder, his elbow, he takes that hit, but like what they've done, get Yao back into the game. As a quarterback, your favorite player is your running back. Get him back in the game. Nice 12-yard gain on that rush. Swing him out on that pass. But this would be a major blow if they can't get him back in the game. So hopefully he'll get back into this game very quickly for Laval.
Well, Laval finally moving the football here. Back-to-back plays by Yao. Has them inside Huskies territory at the 44. It plays very foreign to them in this game, and a concerned Glenn Constantine watching on. Guillaume Allard-Camus is the backup tailback, and he, the Huskies didn't see Yao up in St. Foy. It was Camus that they had to play.
Yeah, it definitely was. And you know what? Laval's starting to respond, though, right now. That's what they need to do. There's 2 minutes left. 2 minutes and 21 seconds left in this half. St. Mary's needs to come out of the defense and try to stop and hold them, basically get that field position back and try to sustain that lead of 14-0 going into halftime. We talked about this before the game. Laval, we talked about how great the teams are, and some coaches think there's mismatches because they have a different type of program than the rest of the people in the country. But I think Laval takes that as an edge, like the Patriots in the NFL, where they think it's us against the CIS, and they have that aura when you see the players in the field in their warm-up and how they respond to things. They have that aura that they believe they can win every game. And it's us against the world, us against the CIS mentality.
Well, Steve Samara said he was fascinated by how Laval continues to play at such a high level year after year. I mean, they've gone wire to wire as the #1 ranked team in the country. Yao did run off the field on his own strength. Play action, Sanchez under pressure, and he's intercepted. Al Birthright with the interception, the senior from Whitby, and that's the second turnover of the day by the Rouge or.
Sanchez cannot throw that football. He's got to throw it away or further to the sideline. He throws it too much inside. Good pass rush there, holds him up. The Birthright comes underneath that throw because it's up in the air too long. Great stand by St. Mary's defense right here. What's amazing is Laval last week, St. FX ran the ball to the edge. We talked about one of the keys to the game. Get that ball outside. They have yet to do it once.
And they do have that, right side of the offensive line stacked up with Ballard Giron and Luc Brodeur-Jourdain. And now Sanchez with only his 5th interception thrown of the year. And what a time for Al Birthright to get the pick. With 2:14 remaining in this second quarter. The Laval player shaken up. It was the center, the all-conference center, Louis David Gagné.
I bet you see what St. Mary's does right now. I guarantee you Steve Samara doesn't hold back. He's going to go for 7 right now, 2 minutes left, and try to drive the length of the field.
The scenario has unfolded perfectly for St. Mary's and Eric Glavich. Nightmare opening for the Rouge as Glavich spins his way and hurdles for the first down, crossing the 40 on a pickup of 13 yards.
Glavich is down. This could be a major blow to St. Mary's right now. Okay, he got his knee pulled.
His left knee, Eric Glavich, the meal ticket for these Huskies. And this is the worst nightmare now for Steve Samara as Ted Abraham, the southpaw from neighboring Bedford, Nova Scotia, looks to get the call.
That's a great call there by Samara. Get your best athlete on the move, but right there, his left knee gets jammed by the defender when he jumps over top of him right there, gets it buckled back, so hopefully he's going to be okay, but he grabs it quickly.
Maxime Berube, 14, was there first, but it was the extra contact at the end of that play by Marc-Antoine Fortin. And Eric Glavich, who, the sly grins, and I love the contact, and is now on the turf. A sophomore from Pickering, Ontario, the youngest son of immigrant parents. His mom from Peru, his dad from Croatia, both brothers playing professional football. Sasha Glavich with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, his brother Marcos went to Lafayette overseas, and what an opening start for Glavich in this National Bowl game. 7 of 12 with 89 yards and that touchdown to Hardwick. 6 carries for 30, and he had that opening score of the afternoon, and now he lays on the Husky Stadium turf with 2:07 remaining in the second quarter.
Yeah, hopefully he's going to be okay in return the second half, but he looks a little upset. You can see that will to win, Rash. He wants to play. You can see it in his face, even laying there, so hopefully he can bounce back. Even if he does bounce back, maybe his mobility will be taken away right now as well, too, so looks like he's at least shaking it off a bit. It's better and better.
He said yesterday, we sat down, he said, I hate to lose. And Steve Samara was raving about the competitiveness of this kid. Ted Abraham's show now. He saw limited action last week against St. FX when Glavich had to get his knee stitched up, and now the 4th leading rusher in the conference, Jacques Lambala, gets 7 and probably some more on a face mask haul as he was being hauled down.
Yeah, it's uncharacteristic of this Laval team. Number 1 ranked team. They've had penalties, miscues right now, leading to St. Mary's fortune. They're going to have to ride Lambala right now. He does a nice job bouncing outside. That's probably going to be a 15-yarder, which is a big play for St. Mary's. Gets it back into Laval field position.
How does this change for Laval now? You know it's going to be the Lambala show with Abraham, while a smart academic All-Canadian obviously has had limited reps and isn't close to the athlete that Eric Glavich is.
I don't think Laval will change anything. They've played their base defense throughout the year. They may bring a little more extra pressure, but Abraham's just got to stay composed. We watched him. He's had some time this year. He's done a good job coming in. So St. Mary's really needs to ride Lambala.
Lambala stuck behind the line and brought down Marc-Antoine Beaudoin-Cloutier, the sophomore with the stop. Glavich still working on that left knee.
What St. Mary's needs to do, though, they got to get rid of that misdirection. What's been effective for them, run straight downhill at this defense. They're too quick off the edge to run around them.
And you can just sense the celebration that was going on. I mean, the air has been sucked out of this stadium. Let's see Laval and that number 2 nationally ranked defense, what they can do. Forced 5 turnovers against Concordia last week in the Quebec final, and Abraham misfires intended for Fraser O'Neill.
Yeah, they got what they wanted there, Ashley. That 4-1 set I talked about earlier in the game, where they put 4 receivers to the field, man-to-man coverage on one of those shorter corners. Just a miscommunication there with O'Neill and Abraham.
Now, the interesting part is we saw Mike McNair a little bit when we did the Acadia game a few weeks ago. With the roster shortened to 40, the Huskies don't have an emergency number 3 quarterback. It's Glavich and McNair.
Actually, I talked to Samara about that one night. And if something happens to Abraham, they'll bring in one of their starting receivers, Carl Hardwick, who's one of their best athletes. That's what they talk about. If that scenario hopefully doesn't arise in this game.
So many different storylines emerging in this national semifinal as Victor Tremblay now on the return gets to the 35-yard line. And 78 seconds remain for Cesar Sanchez after the Pilardi punt. So they've kept the ball out of Dwayne John's hands on what they want. But now Sanchez has been ineffective completely.
But you can see, though, the special team return game still isn't quite effective. With the 40-man roster, what St. Mary did 2 weeks ago is they put their best athletes on special teams. I don't know if Pilardi meant to kick it in the middle of the field, but I think he still wants to start coughing corners, punts, keep the ball away, limit the return, keep the angles short with St. Mary's return team.
Crowd getting into it as Laval opens on 1st and 10. Sanchez complete to Dwayne John at the 49. Tackle made by Benjamin, but not before a pickup of 15.
Yeah, they do a classic route we call over-under and a post on top. Dwayne John comes across the middle. Nice gain. What I like about Sanchez, composed, steps up in the pocket, makes throws a nice throw. You see Dwayne John coming over top there. He's got 2 reads there. Looking at the free safety. Free safety is deep, is coming down to Dwayne John. Dwayne John's coverage, checking it back down. He does a nice job finding Dwayne John across the middle.
Clayton Turkey got a shot on Sanchez there. Lead to Tremblay. Neswick with the tackle. The chains will move again after a pickup of 11.
Yeah, Sanchez does a nice job there. The receivers get a good push-up feel. What I mean by good push-up feel, they get on those DB's toes, get them up there, get up to 15 yards, come back on those hooks. He throws the ball before on time. It's another first down for Laval. And if you start, like you talked about, how St. Mary's bench is trying to rile up these fans because of what happened to Glavich.
It's a huge series here with under a minute to go. Sanchez, flush to the right, under pressure, gets by Brent Shabley, and he takes a shot. After picking up a couple of yards on that play, Ryan Benjamin, the outside linebacker, laid the boom down.
Yeah, Sanchez, talk to Coach Constantine, he's a little more athletic than Gruen. He showed it there. Good coverage by St. Mary's DBs, but like you said, critical drive right here for both teams.
Pick up a 3, a timeout by the Rouge. So on 2nd and 7, St. Mary's defense knows they need to make a stop here. Laval's offense wants the points and momentum going into the break. The Rouge offense has been ineffective. They trailed 14-0. And now with Glavich down, suddenly the dynamic of this game changes remarkably.
Yeah, you sure have. You see Laval's bench has been lifted up too. I expect St. Mary's to bring a little pressure, a little heat. Look for that free safety to come on down low, which means man-to-man coverage. Look for Laval to strike deep maybe on this play.
The Huskies are only loss of the regular season to Laval. Coming into this game ranked 4th in the country, Glenn Constantine said if they're ranked 4th, I don't want to play number 2 or 3. Well, you see why. They're down 14-0 with 32 seconds left in the half. 5 receivers, Rouge, they're looking deep. But Sanchez is going to run, crosses the 40, gets the first down. And the Rouge move the chains with 25 seconds to go. So Sanchez showing some of that mobility.
And he says, you know what, Glavich can do it, I can do it just as well. And he does a nice job of jumping and getting that first down. Great coverage again by St. Mary's. They backed out, only rushed 4, had 8 men in coverage. Sanchez had to do what they had to do to get that first down.
Clock ticking.
A lot of waste. They wasted 11 seconds there, Rash, at that last play, you know. It's just, these are uncharacteristic mistakes of Laval. These penalties, these miscues, the fumble, not jumping on the balls, and these type of wasting 11 seconds right here. It may cost them a field goal with this win because we watched it before the game. How many field goals are made outside of 40 yards on either end?
Well, Christopher Milo's longest field goal this season is 40. His longest attempt was from 46. He was 2 for 4 last week against Concordia. Perfect against the Huskies on his 2 attempts as Glavich slowly jogs off the field, and we will get an update at the half. from Steve Sumara. So many different items as, you know, the opening quarter trying to get an ebb and flow, and then the Huskies strike first after the turnover. They lead 14-0 on the second pop-up. And here we go. First and 10, 14 seconds remaining, and now a timeout by the Huskies as the defense looks to get a change in personnel.
Just we saw Glavich jog across that field, and we talked about his will to win. You know, I always tell quarterbacks, the most important thing a quarterback can do is win. And knowing this kid, he will be back in the second half because he jogged across that field looking pretty confident that he's going to be okay. So hopefully he's okay for the St. Mary's offense and their team.
Well, I asked him yesterday because not only is he, you know, a Heck-Right nominee as the National Player of the Year in football, he plays varsity basketball with the Huskies. And I asked him if, because the coach has talked about his increased aggressiveness, I said, did that come playing hoops? He said, no, that came from me getting my butt whipped by my two older brothers growing up.
There's some good athletes in that family. He is just a terrific athlete. That's why he can play multi-sports. With the free safety low here at Rash, means that maybe bringing some pressure.
5 receivers, 3 to this side of the field. Sanchez. Hit as he throws, complete to Dwayne John, who gets out of bounds alertly with 8 seconds on the clock. They used up 6 there. A pickup of 17. And that gets them inside Milo's range.
That's a nice route there. The outside receiver do a post. Dwayne John outside doing a quick out with a hook in front. 3-level read. We call it a 3-level read. All he has to read is a cornerback. Does he go deep? Does he stay short? Throw opposite of him. He does a nice job. Finds a guy in the middle range for 15 yards. 3-level pattern. Outstanding call by Laval's offense.
Sanchez again. Andrew Powell after him. And he alertly throws it away with a second remaining in the half. Brent Shavley also brought the pressure, but the Rouge alertly, Dwayne John gets out of bounds. Sanchez throws the ball away. They have a second left, and Milo will come on for a 29-yard field goal attempt.
Yeah, with that wind swirling here in Halifax, we played in this stadium. This isn't you can't take this one for granted. It's on the right hash, which makes it a little bit harder for the kicker too. Actually, look for the return if he misses it, because they put one of their best athletes back there. This is the time St. Mary's can do something on special teams as well.
Beswick stands in the end zone. It is wide to the right, and Mark Beswick trips on his own. And the Rouge get a point on the final snap of the first quarter. Let's go down to Adnan Burke with Glenn Constantine.
All right, thanks a lot, Rash. Well, Coach, it's a rare situation for you. Number 1 team on the road. You're down at the half. What are you going to really focus on with your players?
Basically, that we need to start making plays. I mean, the too many drop balls. Our protections are there on sudden change situations, on turnovers. We need to firm up on defense, and it's the worst case scenario. But the best thing is we haven't done anything. So let's make some plays, and our leaders make some plays, and just one play at a time, and we'll dig our way out of there.
How long before Benoit Gru might see some action?
I don't know yet. We'll figure out. You know what? We're throwing the ball properly. We just got to catch the ball. I mean, we had 7 points on a post over here. We dropped some balls, and the receivers are getting jams. They need to get out of the jams and make the. They got to help our quarterback. Our quarterback's doing a good job, and we just need to help him out a little bit more.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck in the second half. Arash.
All right, Adnan. The last time these teams met at Huskies Stadium in a bowl game, it was all St. Mary's. Laval owns the series 6-2, but a 14-1 Huskies lead. Eric Glavich hurt. Halftime here at the Uteck Bowl.
We have a winner. The correct answer to this question is B. Laurier. The winner is Samantha Anderson from Sussex Corner, New Brunswick. Congratulations, Samantha. You get a fantastic Russell prize pack, courtesy of Russell Canada. And in case you're just joining us, St. Mary's taking care of Laval 14-1. Second half action coming right up.
An East Coast flavor flavor to the Uteck Bowl. And right now, all the fans at Huskies Stadium are ecstatic because St. Mary's leads Laval Rouge Or 14-1, taking advantage of some mistakes on the Laval side and capitalizing. But the key question is, what is the health of quarterback Eric Glavich? He took a helmet and went down. It was the left knee that was issuing him, and as you see right now, he looks like he should be all right. The Heck Crichton nominee. The key, of course, St. Mary's Huskies should be starting. We'll get an update officially shortly. In the meantime, let's go back up to Arash Madani and Larry Justanis on what to expect in the second half. Gentlemen.
All right, Adnan, thank you. And yeah, that's a great sight for St. Mary's fans to see their starting quarterback jog out, helmet on. It looks like he's ready to go. And early in this half, he was able to do it with his feet, and then later on in the air, on the 2 touchdowns that has St. Mary's leading 14-1. There was the lunge to put them on the board, and then this controversial touchdown that was pulled in by Carl Hardwick. Larry, it looked like it hit the ground.
Yeah, it did look like it hit the ground, but I still love the play call. There's the injury. He seems to be coming back, but going to the Glavich injury, talking to the coaching staff there at halftime, no ligament damage. Knee is stable, which is a great sign. He came out, jogged, you see him doing his cuts. I expect him to be back in that game somehow. Maybe really might be lacking someone, but just his leadership and his will to win the game. Going to those first half stats right now, pretty even, Rash. The biggest difference is that turnover. We talked about those 2 turnovers. Usually that's what Laval thrives on, turning the ball over, then going after jugular. Love what St. Mary's does, turns the ball over, pick, a fumble, goes after it, scores 14 points after it, and that's why they have a lead 14-1.
This is a veteran St. Mary's team and a group that has really kind of bonded. This is how they came out onto the field after the half. And for a lot of these guys, they're veterans, and some realize this is as good a chance as they have to return to the site of past glory in the Vanier Cup. The winner of this game, of course, off to the national final next week at the Desjardins Vanier Cup. We will have coverage all week long. We mentioned the turnovers, the 2 cough-ups. Mark Beswick forced one on a punt return, led to the opening touchdown. But penalties have also hurt the Rouge Or. And in fact, in a game where field position has been so critical, it was penalties on a holding penalty that set up then the no yards on a punt that set up that Hardwick touchdown. So the Huskies are taking advantage of their opportunities. They're playing Laval football, if you will.
Exactly. They're winning that game of field position. We talked about those keys to the game, right? The special teams. They've done a great job of keeping Dwayne John in check. What a big play in that first half for Ash was a Massey drop. I really thought that set the tone for Laval. First miscue, they dropped the opportunity to get 6 points on St. Mary's in that first quarter when the crowd's in the game. When St. Mary's had energy, what they didn't do is catch that football, get those 6 points. St. Mary's comes back, creates 2 turnovers. All those penalties, Laval, uncharacteristic of them. That's why St. Mary's has that lead 14-1. But talking to Pierre Verchibald before the game, he thought Laval played the worst first half of any game this year. They threw out the worst plays, so hopefully Laval can come back and get back into this game.
Eric Glavich just went over to the St. Mary's captains and gave him some words of encouragement. He is limping going back to the sidelines. You wonder if he's going to be able to go in the second half. Adnan Burke is down on the St. Mary's sidelines. We'll get to him in a moment. Laval a little late coming out of the locker room, and there is Eric Glavich speaking with our Adnan Burke. So your Glenn Constantine, as bad a half as you have had all year, what do you tell this team, this veteran team that has been so disciplined all year long?
I think you just say, believe in yourself. We've been, we haven't been in this predicament at all this year where we're trailing at the end of the half. Get back to the basics of football. What got them here? We're running the football. Get to that edge.
All right, let's go down to Adnan Burke on the St. Mary's sideline. Adnan?
Okay, thanks a lot, Arash. And here is the man, Eric Glavich. So, Eric, we saw you take that hit. How you feeling?
All right, just a little twist. I'll be back in the game.
It shouldn't be an issue as far as scrambling is concerned? Or
maybe a little limited, but doesn't matter.
No pain, no gain.
Exactly.
Arash?
Adnan, he is an incredible competitor. He really is. And, I go back to what we talked about in the first half. He said yesterday, I hate to lose. And it's just the way he said it.
And that's what you want as your starting quarterback. But what do you think of this? St. Mary's unified, all standing on the 50-yard line. They believe in themselves. The coach has said, best week of practice in the last 2 years. And there's a great time to do it. They've kind of slept through the last 3 games of the A conference. Playing St. FX, playing Acadia, playing Mount A. They believe they wanted to come out and play against Laval. They've waited for Laval for 4 weeks since they've gone up and lost to Laval.
14-1, the lead for the Huskies. They were 10-point underdogs coming into this game. The line began at 7.5. And terrific. The University football is on the board, by the way. The Manitoba Bisons also began as 7.5-point favorites. That line has extended to 9.5. That is the second half of our doubleheader. Tim McAuliffe, Dwayne Ford, Glenn Sheeler are in Winnipeg. Partner, you and I were there last week, and I can't imagine it getting colder, but I'm sure it will be at Canada Stadium.
It was balmy when we were there, but I just saw Yao jog across the field. Looks like he's got his equipment on. He's going to come back in this half. Big start for Laval here. They want to probably get a nice return, get some field position, and get back in this game. But they got to get back to the basics. That's what they do well. They have great athletes, play basic football, run the ball, get some first downs, keep the pressure off Sanchez.
The Rouge et Or, 14 consecutive wins. Vanier Cup champions a year ago. They've won 4 national championships dating back to 1999. What's incredible is this program only got off the ground in '96. Meanwhile, the Huskies looking to get back to the dance. They were champions in 2001 and 2002. They knocked off these Rouge et Or here in Halifax in 2001 en route there.
Expect a pooch kick right here by St. Mary's. They practice all week, but they don't want to get the ball in Dwayne John's hands.
Short kick indeed from Pilardi. Third quarter underway from Halifax. Here's Victor Tremblay. Biggest return of the day, and what a start for the Laval Rouge et Or. Jeff Zielinski finally trips him up at the 51-yard line. A 32-yard run back by the true freshman.
Yeah, that's exactly what Laval want to do. Get a great return out, get good field position, get back that base football, pound the football. And Sanchez is coming out, so Constantine is sticking with him.
Benoit Groux remains on the bench. Again, he was the Heck Crichton nominee for the Quebec Conference a year ago. Began the season as the starter. 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions through 4 games. High ankle sprain has kept him out. He is dressed as the number 2 quarterback. Play action. First play. Clinton Sherka unable to come down with the sack, but there is King. Andrew King with the sack, and the pressure coming from the St. Mary's defense.
You know, talking to Coach Constantine before the game, the one key they found, if that safety's low, which he is right now, they got to go over top. And there you go, number 80 is wide open. Good pressure by St. Mary's front 7. Get the sack. But Sanchez got to see that, recognize that safety's low. Whenever he's low in the box, that means St. Mary's is bringing pressure. Got to go down and try to go for the jugular.
What Ryan Benjamin told us yesterday, and the Huskies are forced to burn a timeout here, is that if we can disrupt Sanchez from making that first read, that's when we get effective. And you see the 2 sacks thus far by the Huskies as King shares a laugh with Mike McLean, second-year defensive coordinator for St. Mary's.
Yeah, they've done a nice job. We talked about at the beginning of the game where they want to get the front 7, give them that pressure. With Sanchez, what they want to do is get him out of that rhythm as a discussion. You know, they're a rhythm team and throwing the football. Catch that gunshot, throw it out quickly. He's got to see that free safety low, though, and go for those 7 points.
So Cesar Sanchez, just such an interesting story. Again, we talked about a little bit before. He's from Mexico in his 3rd year of eligibility. He was playing in the Global Junior Championships down in Houston, Texas a couple of years back. Glenn Constantine on the Team Canada coaching staff spotted him, recruited him to Laval. He was a Spanish-speaking student athlete looking for a U.S. scholarship, and Constantine asked him, how does he function in a French environment? He says he learns more French from his girlfriend than he does from us. An incomplete intended for Dwayne John. Terrific coverage on the play there by Ryan Benjamin. That's a linebacker coming out in coverage.
That's a nice play by the O-line, too, to give him time. Good play by Benjamin getting out on Dwayne John, the most explosive athlete, cutting that route. We talked about cutting that route, getting underneath it, making deflection. What's interesting about the English and the French barrier we talked about, what's interesting is Coach Constantine and his coaches coach all week in practice and in game time. They speak English the whole time to all the players to get them ready for the CFL. So there's no French talking during practices and game situations. They all talk English to get these guys prepared for the next level.
Well, here's one guy who's preparing himself for the next level, Christopher Milo. Played in the preseason for the Alouettes, gets off a beauty of a punt. Rasiopa from his own 23. And he has brought down terrific special teams coverage there. Guillaume Senecal, the backup running back, with the stop. Laval, they are represented in the Canadian Football League across the board. Check it out. 11 players. Perhaps the most interesting story is Matthew Bertrand, a fullback with the Edmonton Eskimos. He was the quarterback of the '99 Rouge et Or team that won its first national title.
That's unfortunate. Again, we're getting into that Canadian quarterback controversy, but that's what happens. He's just a terrific athlete. What he's done is he's established himself as a fullback and got into that league.
So Eric Glavich, despite the left knee injury, is in. Benoit Gru warming up on the sidelines, and here's shifty Jacques Lombala, met by Eric Miranda. He picks up 3 to bring up 2nd and 7. We'll call it 4. And the competitiveness of Eric Glavich, and we'll see Benoit Gru perhaps as he warms up. Sanchez has the coat on, and Miranda has the lid off. And a shaken up Laval player on the field.
Looking at Glavich, he's still limping around. What I expect St. Mary's to do is probably get him in the shotgun so he doesn't have to really take many steps. You just catch the ball and get rid of it very quickly without any drops, and you just hand it off underneath the players.
Jean-Philippe Cormier is down for Laval. 2 minutes gone by in this third quarter. A limping Eric Glavich, the St. Mary's starting quarterback, a left knee injury suffered in the opening half. On a quarterback draw, and he's no stranger to taking hits and rushing the football. Almost 500 yards on the ground this season.
Yeah, you know what? Everybody's questioning those in his passing game, so we're going to see what he can do in the second half, probably because his mobility's being limited. But Coach Samara loves this kid because of his toughness and competitiveness, and I love him because all he wants to do is win, and that's what matters as a quarterback.
I asked Samara, when did you know that Glavich was the real deal? He said in his first start. It was against Acadia. He showed up, and the performance he put on, you knew right then and there that this kid was going to be the real deal. He's a sophomore. Larry, this guy has so much upside and potential down the road.
Oh, definitely. And you know, it's going to be a great time to watch him for the next 3 years down here in Halifax.
Second and 5. Glavich looking for Fraser O'Neill. Complete no, he dropped it. Late coverage came from the free safety, the old conference. Samuel Lajoie, and what a play. That would have been huge.
A heck of a play by Laval, but love the play call. They got that 4-1 set we talked about in the first half. What Laval does is they man-to-man that backside receiver. Fraser gets behind him, but Lajoie comes across and makes a heck of a play.
You see why he was a unanimous all-star selection in the Quebec Conference.
Big stand there for Laval. You can see it now. They're going to get that field position. This is what they do. Win that field position battle, they'll probably get the ball inside the 50 right now.
Nearly blocked. Coming through was Marc-Antoine Fortin. And it'll roll out of bounds at midfield, and that is where the Laval Rouge et Or offense comes out, and Benoit Gru enters the game after one ineffective second half series. Cesar Sanchez takes the bench, and Quebec's most valuable player a year ago who helped Laval win the Vanier Cup comes on the game, and what a start to the year he had before suffering that high ankle sprain. Larry, we were talking about last night back at the hotel. 18 incompletions? Are you kidding me?
No, he had a terrific year going. Talking to Coach constantly before the game. If Will gets in, what they said is they're going to get him back there in the gun because he's not 100%. They're going to play pitch and catch. That's his game. Watch the difference. So he's going to get rid of the ball quickly. He makes great decisions. Very cerebral quarterback as well. Not as athletic as Sanchez, but gets rid of the ball quickly.
And Glenn Constantine said he has a better understanding of our offense through. There's no question about that. So on step, the most efficient passer in the nation.
We have
the play clock in the far end zone has gone out. So the 20-second clock in one end zone is on, and the other it's off. So the referees they will converge. By the way, Peter Eady, his 12th bowl game officiating, 4th as head referee. So congratulations to the Rothsay, New Brunswick native.
You know, he's done a few of my games. He's a terrific referee. He doesn't get himself involved in the game. That's what you want a referee not to do. Let the guys play, let the kids play, let the best team win. You know, we had that controversial touchdown in the first half, but you know, sometimes everybody makes errors and things like that. But unfortunately, we don't have the replay.
6 receivers for Benoit Gros. Opening pass complete to Victor Tremblay. He picks up 7. And the true freshman from Quebec City, a completion on Grew's first toss of the afternoon.
You see Grew just gets the ball, pitch and catch, gets rid of that quickly on a quick hook. Quick 7 yards.
What does this do for an offense, Larry? You were a quarterback to get a different quarterback come in at this juncture of the game.
He's their starter. You know, they've known what they get with him. He's one of them. They cut to them. You'll see this offense now pep it up. The defense will actually have another step in them as well.
And they whistle the play dead. The referees pointing to the sideline again. So Peter Reedy taking care of some administrative matters. (14-1). St. Mary's still out on top in this Uteck Bowl. Glenn Constantine, his 7th year as head coach of this program. Hard to believe. It's been 7 years for this head coach. Was the defensive coordinator under Jacques Chapdelaine when the Rouge et Or won their first Vanier back in 1999. And Glenn, a defensive-minded coach, his teams in his 3 titles as head coach have given up only 16 points in 3 national title wins. Here's Drew. Penalty marker on the play. 2 flags fly. Pass incomplete. Dropped by Guillaume Allard-Camus. Looks to be in the vicinity of holding, but a flag also came late.
Yeah, nice job there by St. Mary's defense. Good coverage on the field. Number 80 came down the seam wide open, though. Rule just didn't have a time. You can see him come up through your left right here in a split second, but good pressure right there, and you get the hold by the left tackle on Laval. But look, still uncharacteristic drop football again by Laval. This just doesn't happen with the number 1 ranked football team.
Holding on the offense. Illegal contact on the defense. 10-yard penalty each side nullified. 2nd down.
So they repeat 2nd down with 2 yards to go.
Who is having as terrific a postseason as you're going to get. The 4th-year man out of Vancouver. You know, Beswick and Jeff Zielinski were teammates in Canadian junior football in Abbotsford, British Columbia. The free safety on that team, Bob Reist of the Manitoba Bisons, who had 3 picks last week in the Hardy Cup that we did.
Yeah, it's amazing that Beswick wasn't in all conference. We watched him a couple weeks ago. He's got great hips. That's what coaches next level talk about. Great hips and corners. He does a nice job of breaking, undercutting that football. And getting, what I loved about it is he put his right hand in front, didn't put his left hand on the back for any interference.
So Milo will kick into the win. 4 minutes gone by in the 3rd quarter. Remains a 13-point Huskies lead. And here's Ryan Warburton looking to get to the outside, and he's unable to do so. Sebastien St-Jean forcing him out of bounds. A limping Eric Glavich, and the St. Mary's Huskies will have the ball when we return.
Sebastien.
The tradition at St. Mary's through the generations. They watch from residents. They watch from the buildings surrounding Husky Stadium on a sun-splashed afternoon in Nova Scotia's capital. They cheer for this man, Eric Glavich, who has emerged as the next great quarterback for this storied program. Jacques Lambala picking up 5 before Marc-Antoine Baudouin-Cloutier trips him up.
Yeah, nice call by Samara there. They've got Miranda out of the box. When I talk about getting out of the boxes, they get a 3-receiver set to the wide side of the field. What has to happen there is either halfback has to come over from the other side or Miranda has to weaken the box by going out and covering him down. What do they do? Puts him outside in the box. They run right exactly where Miranda left the box.
Miranda, such a force on that Laval defense. And Lumbala's getting his carries. And the play whistle dead before the snap. Time count violation. This thing will move back, and Glavich says, my fault.
It's interesting, Arash, on first down when they go in that 3-1 set, the adjustment Laval does is to put Miranda out there to cover that third receiver, leave the halfback over. On second down, what the problem they've been doing in this game is moving that halfback over now, getting that weak side, number 11 corner, man-to-man matchup on the St. Mary's receiver. And St. Mary's tried to hit it a couple times deep. Last year as they tried to Fraser O'Neill, look upon that for the rest of the game as well.
Five minutes gone by, third quarter. Glavich looking for the out. And is it picked off? No, it's, wow, Sean White holds in a terrific play. They went right at Andre Saint-Amour, the sophomore corner from Ottawa, and White was able to come down with it.
What a catch by White, wow. I'll tell you what. Glavich was late on that throw. He's got a wide side out into the wind. Moore makes a great break, but doesn't come up with a football. He's got to go out, snag that thing through the air.
Saint-Amour had a pick against Concordia in the Quebec final last week, and Sean White, the number 2 receiver on the team, grabs that ball, and the Huskies have a first down. And in this field position game, I tell you what, that is a big-time play by Sean White.
Big play, because he catches that Saint-Amour. He's going the other way for 6, changes maybe the balance of this game. Sean White is the most underrated receiver. I talked to Coach Samara. He's one of the faster guys. What they want to do is get him inside that slot to go against Miranda and the weaker DBs.
Made the Atlantic All-Conference team for the first time in his 4-year career. There's Lumbala, a 2-time All-Star in this conference, and the senior from Calgary brought down at the 28. Jacques Lumbala, born in Africa, spent the majority of his upbringing living outside of Montreal, played his minor football there, moved to Calgary, was playing junior football at the Calgary Colts, left the University of Calgary Dinos program, and in 2005 spent the preseason with the Stampeders and said it was just an incredible experience. Said, you know, you're playing a preseason game in the CFL and you see yourself up on the Jumbotron. It's an amazing feeling. Here's Glavich. Forget the injury. I'm going to run, he says, and he pays the price as Miranda batters him at the 32. It's going to be, they need to get to the 33 for a first down, and I think they're a little short.
Yeah, I think Eric's come up. He looked pretty active there on that run, but I think his knee is really bothering him.
Yeah, he got crunched by the most outstanding defensive player in Quebec.
Shows that athletic ability, but that left knee again, he plays that cut, and you can see his left knee dangle there in air. He grabs it right away, so he knows the will to win here, but
this kid, we did the game against Acadia a month ago. He hurt his wrist. Last week, he had a neck injury that forced him out for a short period of time. He had to get his knee stitched up in that football game. His right shoulder is bothering him. And here he is again, getting looked at by the St. Mary's training staff with 8:47 remaining in the third quarter of this national bowl game, and Ted Abraham warming up.
What's interesting about this game right now, Rash, is both backup quarterbacks have entered the game, but Laval's actually returning their starting quarterback. So advantage Laval right now.
No question. And Abraham is seeing such limited reps.
And you can hear his career. You can hear the sigh right now of the St. Mary's fans again. You know, it's the silence over the crowd. So hopefully he's okay to get back into this game, because it's a big lift for the St. Mary's offense and team and crowd.
Yeah, that's what they want. They want to make it to Toronto for the Desjardins Vanier Cup next Friday night right here on The Score. We'll have coverage throughout the week beginning on Tuesday. Shows beginning at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, and our pregame begins at 6:30 from inside the Rogers Center. The road to the Desjardins Vanier Cup. It will be St. Mary's or Laval. And then, of course, coming up next is the Mitchell Bowl. You know, the Uteck Bowl is such a big part of the fabric of the Halifax sporting community. It's on a rotation basis now. They get it every 2 years. When you were playing in the mid-90s, when Chris Flynn, a little bit before that, this was the premier event in the fall in Atlantic, Canada.
We talked about that before the game. I think the last few years there hasn't been that premier marquee player, and is coming back now with Glavich. It'd be very disappointing for Glavich if he can't return, though, because he really wanted to play in this game. He wanted to beat Laval. He wanted to show basic Canada what he can do. You know, he was upset that they lost 4 weeks ago, and it's been eating him for the last 4 weeks to get into this game and play it.
And he got crunched by Miranda, already limping prior to that. Here's Justin Pilardi. Design punt to his sidelines. He gets by King, crosses midfield, and brought down by Beswick at the 48-yard line. Benoit Gru and the Laval Rouge et Or will take over as Glavich's day may be done.
Another Wells TD.
Hey guys, turn around. You're on national television. Time for an upgrade on the television, by the way. The Vanier Cup's going to be in HD next Friday night. Watching from their dorm rooms, enjoying a cold one. I'm a little concerned over the status of Eric Glavich, the starting quarterback, St. Mary's fans. Rue finds Allard Camus, who gets by the 45. Benjamin trips him up, but not before he picks up 5. So Guillaume Allard Camus was the tailback with Pierre-Luc Yao. Yao injured when these two teams met back in St. Foy, and now with Yao shaken up again, it's that backup who's getting the nod now.
Nice call there by Laval, though. Slow down that pass rusher, screens and draws. Nice call by Laval on first down.
2nd and 5. We're looking for John and nearly intercepted. Second bat down of the day by Salim Borhat, the junior free safety from Calgary.
Yeah, nice play there again. They're winning that cover 0 scheme. What I mean by that is Salim's out of the box. He's not playing anywhere deep. Nice man-to-man coverage on Dwayne John. He's got to get that ball down the middle of the field. I talk about the middle of the field. He's got to get it down there instead of trying to throw it. He's a little behind on Dwayne John. He's got to get that ball more of the sideline. They're really trying to get Dwayne the ball. Maybe they got to do a little bit of reverses or some hit screens to get him active in this game.
So coming up on the midway point of this third quarter, the Huskies defense answering the call once more. 7th ranked defense in the country, 1st in Atlantic, Canada. Milo, the 4th best punter in the land, averaging better than 40 yards a punt, angles this one, but it's going to bounce into the end zone. And Warburton tries to get it out, but will concede the single point. Let's go down to Adnan Burke.
Thanks a lot, Rashel. You're talking about Pierre-Luc Yao and the status of him. He banged up his knee and says right now he should return, although this offense certainly could use him sooner rather than later. Look for him to return in the next couple of offensive series. Rashel.
Yeah, you're not kidding about that, Adnan. 3 touchdowns last week for Yao, 9 on the season, and here's a guy in his 5th year who could set some CIS history. We'll get to that in a moment. But first, Ted Abraham leads his 3rd series, the backup southpaw. And this play is whistled dead before the snap gets off. So we were mentioning about Yao, and there are 3 Rouge et Or veterans who could set some CIS history. Dwayne John, Eric Miranda, and the tailback. They've won 3 national titles. These would be the only trio, or the only players ever to win 4 if Laval is to rally in this game and end up winning next week.
It's funny to see those 3 guys are the main keys of this football team, too, for the last 4 years. That's why they have a chance at a 4th Vanier Cup.
Some issues with the clock once again. Communication being made with both sidelines. A cold, blustery Halifax afternoon as Peter Eady will whistle this in. Eric Glavich most likely out for the game. He came back after getting hurt in the first half, and now Abraham. His pass nearly intercepted, intended for Warburton, in terrific defensive coverage by Sebastien St-Jean.
Yeah, they're trying to pick on Sebastien St-Jean because of the size and things like that. Does a nice job, though. Good coverage, getting that left hand in. So you can see here rolls, nice dig route. Play action pass on first down. Great play call by St. Mary's. Does a nice job throwing the ball. A little behind. Sebastien St-Jean comes in, a nice play on his left hand.
St-Jean is from France. He's in his third year of eligibility, a 24-year-old, so a veteran. Delayed draw to Alistair Blair. He gets by St-Jean, crosses the 40, past midfield, and Alistair Blair may be gone. Past the 20 and brought down at the 9-yard line. A 66-yard scamper for the backup running back who's rushed for 4 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, great play call. That play didn't look like it had a chance at first for National. Nice little draw play, a little delay to Alistair Blair. Alistair Blair is a different running back than Laval. He's more of a pinball type, Maurice Jones-Drew type of running back. Gets out in open space, has more speed than Laval. Great job downfield by receivers blocking for him. Huge play for St. Mary's. Laval's got another player down on the field right now.
He just ran out of gas, but a great job of getting by Sebastien St-Jean at the point of the handoff. And you see him trailing as Petit Frères came to get him from behind. Meanwhile, back at the line of scrimmage, Alex Supernom, the backup corner, is shaken up for the Rouge et Or. But a huge run to set up first and goal without your starting quarterback for the Huskies.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I watched Alistair Blair in practice 2 nights ago. They had a couple of busted plays on offense. He got visibly upset with his O-line. You can see the intensity of the St. Mary's offense through the practice week as well.
Jacques Lambala yesterday talked about the importance of Blair, not only to give him a breath, but he said Alistair is a real important part of our team. And this may be as big a run as the Huskies have had all year with their quarterback down and being able to run the football game.
We talked about the depth of Laval. Everybody talks about how many great athletes they have in the depth. But St. Mary's has some great depth in their backyard as well here in Nova Scotia. They recruit nationally. They do a great job. St. Mary's does a great job of getting the best players across the country.
Yeah, and you talk about the depth that St. Mary's have. They get it scattered around. Look at some of these statistics, and you see the reason why one's bolded. 10 different players have caught touchdown passes for this team.
You know what? Everybody talks about a great offense. I think what they've averaged over 500 yards of offense per game, and that's the reason why. When you can spread the ball around, have that many receivers catch a touchdown, great running back. It's hard for any defense to defend.
Well, you're talking about an offense that's scoring 44 points a game.
Yeah.
Tops in the country. First and goal, St. Mary's from the Laval line. Lambala's the deep back. Lambala takes the carry, crosses the 5, picks up about 5.
Even if St. Mary's doesn't score a touchdown, what they've done is they've wasted some clock. They're going to put themselves up by 2 scores again. Nice little run here by Lambala inside. Nice play by the O-line, getting up that second level. Lambala finds that crease. 4 more yards, and they're in for 7.
Lambala, one of 6 running backs in the country to eclipse 1,000 yards. Abraham, incomplete. He was looking for Warburton. And that'll bring on Justin Pilardi for his first field goal attempt of the afternoon.
Yeah, you know what? You can see the miscommunication. Darcy Brown is the open receiver. They did a slant and a flat, basically. 2 Laval guys went after 1 receiver. Unfortunately, Abraham threw the wrong receiver. Darcy Brown was wide open in the end zone. Big break for Laval there. They'll only probably give up 3 right now.
And how Glavich is just coming back out to hold. I saw number 10 out there. But Glavich is the full-time holder for Pilardi. The rookie of the year in the conference last season. He extends the St. Mary's lead to 15 with 5:21 remaining in the third quarter. The 10-point underdogs are rolling at home.
CTV, the daily
The Laval Rouge 4-2 all-time in bowl games, but on the road, that's where their losses have come, and they now trail 17-2. Plenty of football left. 5:21 to go in the third quarter. Benoit Groux is the starting quarterback, and while the Huskies came out with 3 there, perhaps that 66-yard rumble by Alistair Blair may be the most pivotal play of this game.
Yeah, we were talking about that off air. Laval was starting to get that field position back in the second half, and they're pinning St. Mary's deep. Alistair Blair makes a great play out of nothing, basically. Looked like he could tackle for loss, but it's a nice 66-yard gain.
They keep it out of Dwayne John's hands again. And Laval, a little lucky just to recover that one. As the ball got hung up in the wind, as Groux will begin the series at the 33. And you see not only a dejected look, but a stunned look. And that's Etienne Legacy, the number 66 there, trying to communicate a little bit with his defensive line.
What I like about Coach Samara's game plan is he knew his special teams were weaker than Laval's. He's taken that out of the game.
Yeah.
It was kicked away from Dwayne John. He's pooch kicked it. He's coffin corner punt. He's not letting that beat him.
Huskies rush with 4. Groux with time. He's got a wide open Tremblay complete, and then Groux took a shot late. So on top of the 13-yard pickup, that's coming back against Laval. I thought that could have been roughing the passer.
It definitely could have been. What's interesting right now is St. Mary's is making Laval one-dimensional. I still think they can run the ball without Yao. What's happening is those linebackers are getting great depth. They're getting 15 to 20 yards back on depth, and that's making it tough for Groux to throw the ball.
Holding on the offense. 10-yard penalty. Remains first down.
The 5th penalty of the afternoon for Laval. 65 yards on those infractions, and they have been some real big ones with field position. One was pivotal in the second Huskies touchdown.
The timing of penalties can be crucial, and it's hurt Laval today.
1st and 20. And Groux's pass batted away by Al Bothright, the 4th-year all-conference halfback.
I love these DBs at St. Mary's. Coach McLean's done a great job with the DBs. Every time they come and try to bat a ball down, they're coming in with the right hand over top and not getting the left hand in for interference. There's a great play by Bertrand right here, coming over top of it.
And Larry, all 5 starting defensive backs for the Huskies have a pass breakup today.
Forward pass interference on the defense. 20 foul. First down.
Was that on Birthright?
That was. It's an unfortunate call because you can't teach a DB a better play than that. He came over the right hand, didn't touch him to the left. It's just a good defensive football play.
So the Rouge dodge a bullet, get a first down on what would have been 2nd and 20 otherwise. Complete. Levine Moss's knee was down at the 32. Then he picks up 5 to bring up 2nd and 5. Levine Moss, the senior from Montreal, 9 touchdowns on the year, and he's, the main guy now with 3 of Laval's receivers out, including Matthew LeBlanc, who tore his ACL early in the year, Guillaume Blain-Normand, who got hurt in practice this week. And the pass to Moss off the mark. And Laval again will be forced to punt.
And you wonder if it's Laval's offense that looks out of sync, or is it St. Mary's defense that making them look out of sync?
Or maybe a little of both.
Yes, and true. Watching the film against Concordia, though, they didn't look that exciting.
No.
Football of an offense.
A very dull offense.
Yeah, and Groux kind of adds another dimension where he can throw the ball and makes better decisions. Great route there by Mass. I isolated him right there. Terrific route. Just missed him over the middle. Laval doesn't miss those when they're in sync. That's why they're the #1 ranked team. And I think the pressure of St. Mary's front 7 has done a heck of a job today as well.
Rasioka unable to come down with the football initially, but does recover. The Huskies catch a break, and that's been the story all afternoon in Halifax. Well, it's a party here in Halifax, but the best party at the Desjardins Vanier Cup will be in the OUA bleacher bash section at the Rogers Center. Catch Real Scarlet perform outside before the game, win prizes during the game and afterwards, and you get free access to the Steam Whistle post-game party. Go to vaniacup.ca/bleacher bash for more information. And I bet there will be plenty of St. Mary's fans in that bleacher bash if this continues here at Huskies Stadium. The number 4 ranked team in the country leading 17-2, led 14-1 after 2 quarters.
Yeah, you know what? We talked about that misdirection, but you see the great flow of these linebackers. The 45, the Mac linebacker, KJ Hilliard, comes across, scrapes and makes a nice play. You got to run downhill on Laval, not misdirection.
Ted Abraham looking, oh wow, and dropped by Carl Hardwick, who had a touchdown in the opening period, but was unable to hold that one in.
Yeah, you know what? Teddy Abraham adds another dimension. I think he has a stronger arm to look at it. When he's going against the run, he's not afraid to throw it up, give his receivers a chance. Last couple series, he's throwing some nice footballs, and his receivers will let him down.
And, you know, the stat line will show Abraham is 0 for 4 coming in off the bench, but that one's not the quarterback's fault.
Yeah, we can count 2 where Fraser Neal also dropped one down that same sideline earlier in the third quarter.
So we're 2 and out with under 3 minutes to play in this third quarter. Dwayne John, Victor Tremblay back to receive this polarity punch. Surprisingly, goes to Tremblay as it has all afternoon. And the freshman brought down at midfield. Andrew King and Brent Shapley there for the stop. Drew and the Rouge coming up after this break. Shaken up on that last special teams play, Guillaume Senecal, the backup running back.
Interesting fact that we just got from the Stars pitching Johnny here.
Johnny Russin.
Is Laval, when they're successful offense, are a balanced football team. Right now, they've only run the ball 8 times and thrown the ball 24 times. You know, they've got to get back. We talked about that key to the game. You've got to watch that St. FX game last week where St. FX got to the edge, ran for 216 yards in the second half alone, getting outside. I've yet to see one run to Laval, toss sweep, something where we get the running back outside.
Well, they lost Pierre-Luc Yao in the first half with an injury, and Adnan Burke reported that we could be seeing him a little later today. That's perhaps the 5th-year senior wanting to get back. Both teams without the quarterback who began the game. For the Rouge, Cesar Sanchez is out, Benoit Gru is in. The Huskies have lost Eric Lavich to injury. There's Camus, and Guillaume Allard-Camus will be close to a first down. Had to get to the 45. And he appears to be about a football length shy of moving the sticks.
Yeah, he's a big running back compared to Yao. He comes downhill on you. They make a DB a little scared coming downhill, but nice job at the O-line there. They run the left side. That O-line averages over 300 pounds. You know, they can keep pounding that football. There's lots of time. There's another quarter of football. They're only down by 2 scores. Stick with your game plan. Believe in what you've done, what got you here.
Well, what got them here has been terrific defense. And the best offense in Quebec, second in the land, Gru with the sneak, first down Rouge. And Benoit Gru moves these chains. The most efficient passer in the nation before he got hurt with that high ankle sprain. And a line of terrific quarterbacks that have come through this Laval program. Gru is definitely one of them. 3 receivers. They go back to Camus. Andrew King gets him, and Camus able to lunge forward to pick up 4 before being brought down to set up 2nd and 6.
Now, Rash, you're talking about going back to the basics. So what does Laval do? They take out 2 receivers, put double tight in there, 7 men on the line of scrimmage, and what they're saying is we're going to beat you man-to-man, pound the football, we're coming back at you.
And now some no-huddle from the Rouge as Drew is from the gun. 70 seconds to go, way off sides. Is the receiver Moss, and Drew's run will be all for naught. Laurent Levine Moss was about 6 yards off the line at the point of the snap.
Yeah, a little bit. A little jump there. But what St. Mary's is doing, I like what they're doing on defense, is not beating themselves. What I mean by that is they're not coming with the blitzes. They're not, you can see Massey right here about 6 yards offside before the snap comes up. But going back to St. Mary's, look at those linebackers. They're getting depth. They know they've become one-dimensional on offense.
5-yard penalty. Remains second down.
And St. Mary's doing a great job. The DBs, linebackers, keeping everything in front of them. They're going to catch the ball. They're going to come downhill and make the tackle. Nothing over top. No big plays. No easy scores. That's what St. Mary's trying to do. It's a great play calling by Coach McLean, the defensive coordinator.
Second and 11. Huskies there, and it's picked off by Andrew Paupow, who had an interception in their last meeting, and Andrew Paupow rumbling past the 10, 5, the lateral is up for grabs, touchdown St. Mary's. Tim St. Pierre picked up the loose fumble, and the Huskies may be punching their plane ticket to Toronto.
This is all set up by great coverage downfield. Gruel cannot throw this football. We talked about the athleticism. Andrew Paupow does a great job. One-hand scoop set. What he's trying to do right now, he's trying to slow it down. He wants to jump into the end zone. I'm telling you. Right now, he just throws that pitch out. His dad didn't teach him that. I can guarantee Joe Paupow didn't teach him that pitch, but great football play right there by Paupow.
And his dad in attendance, now coaching with the Waterloo Warriors, the former CFL quarterback and coach. A 63-yard run back by Paupow before hooking it up to Tim St. Pierre. They're getting set to slide down that hill, and they may be rolling all the way to Toronto, these Huskies fans. Paupow out last couple of weeks with a quad contusion. Mike McLean told us before the game. His folks now live in Burlington, and Mike McLean told us he brings energy, Paupow, to this defense.
Unnecessary roughness on the convert against Laval. Roughing the center. Penalty would be applied 15 yards from the point of kickoff.
We talked in the opening about Laval making you pay for mistakes and turnovers. St. Mary's has turned it around on the Rouge et Or.
Yeah, exactly that. Coach Samara talked about, we have a chance if we don't turn the ball over. What have they done? 0 turnovers, 3 against Laval. The result of those 3 turnovers, 21 points. Now another miscue by Laval. Another 15-yard penalty. They're going to be kicking at the 50-yard line basically to start this off. But Coach Scotty and D-line coach told me, watch Paupow today. Athletic, all over the field up at Laval. Had that interception. Again, shows us his athleticism right there. Big play, huge play in this third quarter. 2 big plays by St. Mary's to get them points in this quarter.
Andrew's brother Tyler, a quarterback at Occidental College in California when he was a collegiate player. His youngest brother Carson in the high school ranks. Joe told me before the game, 6'3", 275 right now, grade 11.
He started training with us and doing some running. He's a big guy, big tight end guy.
Pilardi short kick. Dwayne John's not going to touch his football today, I don't think, on returns. And Tremblay crosses the 30. Adnan Burke. How's Andrew Paupow?
Thanks a lot, Rouge. Here with Andrew Paupow, who's been getting a lot of props for everybody. Thanks for putting that hair back for us. Is that the most exciting play you've had this year?
Yeah, that or I had another pick against Laval when we played them up there. Changed the game, but that might have put us in the championship game, which is huge. But I'll talk to you later.
All right, Rouge.
Yeah, Adnan, you're going to get him in trouble. Played 6 games in the regular season. He had those injuries. He got hurt in the Acadia game. And this place is going nuts.
We talked about Rouge. You keep an underdog in a football game, they start smelling it. The Huskies are here. They want to go back to Toronto.
In a season of Cinderella, the St. Mary's Huskies continue to write the script, and the pass intended for Marc-Olivier Dubois-Gagnon is incomplete.
Yeah, Laval's got to have someone make a play. You know, You're always out. They got to get the ball in John's hand. I don't know. We talked about getting to the edges. You can't do it with the running back. Throw a hitch screen to him. Get him out in space where he can be elusive and make some plays.
Nobody is making plays on the Laval Rouge this afternoon.
It all started in the first quarter with that drop pass by Massey. The key point of this football game is that drop football for 6.
And then the Beswick forced fumble on the punt return. That set up the Glavich touchdown rush. Through. Fumbles the football. Forced by Austin McLennan. Laval recovers, and Austin McLennan, Scotty Annan told us before the game, his defensive line coach, can play end and tackle, and he can also strip the football. The St. Mary's Huskies have a party going on in their backyard. A 22-point advantage on the nation's #1 ranked Laval Rouge. Fourth quarter of the Uteck Bowl coming up on The Score.
Right now, but he seems a little rusty here. He sees that guy. Once that guy's over in that field, he's got to go left hash. He's got to throw the ball right now, right to that man right there. Big play right there by the defense coming up. But he has a chance for 6. That could be being rusty out for 4 games right now.
Yeah, he has shown a little bit of a spark, but unable to get into a rhythm. And the St. Mary's pass rush has disrupted the timing of the Rouge. Siopa picks up a couple on the return. Special teams tackle by Jean-Philippe Cormier. The St. Mary's Huskies are beating the Laval Rouge at their own game, pouncing on turnovers.
Yeah, we thought St. Mary's would run the ball effectively, which they have. But right here is a stat we're talking about. Those 3 turnovers have led to 21 points. They have done exactly what Laval does to every other team. Good thing for St. Mary's because they limited their turnovers. That's what Coach Samara talked about. Congratulations to them so far.
Well, aside from the turnovers, those numbers are awfully similar to the game up in Pep Stadium in October. St. Mary's with more than 150 yards of offense against the Rouge. Special teams the factor there. They have cleaned it up as Alistair Blair collects 4.
And I think that's a key stat that's not in the stats is they've limited their special team miscues. They kept the ball out of Dwayne John's hands. They pinned them deep. They played the field position, played the odds of football. The St. Mary's defense has done a great job of holding Laval's offense.
They're doing it without their starting quarterback, the conference most valuable player, Eric Glavich. Injured his left knee in the opening period, returned after the break. Took another big shot by Eric Miranda and has not been back. And meanwhile, the Huskies are relying on the ground. Blair picks up 1. And now the biggest opponent for the Laval Rouge is the clock as it ticks down under 14 minutes remaining in the final quarter. Let's go down to Adnan Burke.
Thanks a lot, Rash. Well, I talked to Eric Glavich. He said that right now it is a left knee injury that he sustained. After that second time he went down, he's not going to risk it getting worse unless the team really needs him, meaning unless it's an emergency. I think a 7-point game, he would go back in the field. For now, though, they don't really need him. Let's go back to Rash.
Yeah, they don't need him right now, not with even the defense making plays for them, Adnan. Andrew Powpow, the pick. Tim St. Pierre scooping up the lateral fumble into the end zone to extend the lead to 22. Here's Dwayne John, who fumbles the return twice. Did he recover, or is it Huskies' ball? And underneath that pile, the 5th-year man has it. He hasn't been used to returning punts all day. Even he's unable to hold on to it.
Yeah, the wind's actually getting a little more swirly down in that zone. Looking at the post. He's got Laval needs a guy to step up. They need their playmakers to make a play here to have a chance. Great job by St. Mary's on offense. Control the ball. Don't make any errors. Run Blair. Run Laval. This is their time now. Get that big O-line moving those defensive players. Control the clock.
You see that wind in that area of the far end zone, and it has been swirling around all day. I spoke with Justin Pollard, who just had that punt. I spoke with Justin before the game. I said, is there any way you can get a feel? And he said, the wind here changes in about 2 minutes. Allard Camus gets to the 20 for a pickup of 3. Powpow, the first man there to bring him down. The Huskies with 11 conference all-stars a year ago, 15 in 2007. And they are well on their way to knocking off the best program in Canadian university football over the last 2 years with 14 consecutive wins, and the defending national champions who have been the top-ranked team in the land since opening day.
Penalty against Laval.
Everything has gone wrong for Glenn Constantine's Rouge.
Illegal procedure on the offense, 5-yard penalty, remains second down.
Or as you talked about last night, Coach Constantine was a little uptight, you know, in his press conference and things like that. Well, Coach Samari, you know what? He had his butterflies, but he felt confident. Like they had the best week of practice. I don't know what Laval did in the preparation, but you could see it on the field right now. One team's playing tight, one team's letting just hang out and play.
This is something St. Mary's has been waiting for since October 13th. Redemption against the Rouge, and they are getting it here at home as that pass intended for Moss just got caught up in the wind.
Yeah, the playmakers of Laval aren't making plays right now, and that's what they need to do. But give credit to St. Mary's defense. They've kept these Rouge players in check the whole game, basically. You know, they kept Yahoo in check. They've dominated. The front seven have done a great job in the pass rush. You know, some drop balls, key drop balls in the first half and the third quarter have affected Laval's offense.
The Rouge ineffective with Cesar Sanchez. It's been the same with Benoit Gru. We thought perhaps the quarterbackship may make an impact, and the Huskies will call a timeout. They didn't have the right personnel on for this special teams play.
Timeout.
6,549 have packed Husky Stadium on a cold, blustery November afternoon. You remember playing here in 1995. What is this atmosphere like for a player?
If you're the home team, it's great.
It's one of the top college football towns in the country. St. Paul, obviously, another in London with the Western Mustangs, the top one as well.
Definitely. When these guys get their fans into the game, they really thrive off it. You know, they get that Husky music going, but you can see they're first in so many categories, right? First in total yards, first in defense in total yards, rush game first, pass game fourth. I think everybody wanted to see the Glavic show, and he put it on in the first half, but I think Snoo's defense has put it on the show today and controlled Laval's offense.
For so many years, this National Bowl game was the Atlantic Bowl, and it was an annual stop on the football circuit. It is now on a rotating basis. Terrific punt by Milo. Rasiopa is going to scoop it at the 51, take 5 extra yards. But with the rotation, this bowl game was renamed the Uteck Bowl, and in the memory of one of the great people, Larry Uteck, great people of this game, a former Montreal Alouette player who came to St. Mary's, and it was Uteck who recruited a lot of the players on St. Mary's' first national championship team. He passed away a few years back from Lou Gehrig's disease, and I mean, that he was as big a football man in this area of the country as you'll find.
Yeah, you know what, I was fortunate to play against his team for 5 years. He had some terrific athletes. Not that he was a great coach, but he was even a better man.
He was an alderman in the city of Halifax as well, and his teammate from the Montreal Alouettes, that 77 Grey Cup championship team, Tony Proudfoot, also recently diagnosed with ALS. And Tony and his wife Vicky, if they're watching back in Montreal, our thoughts are with you. As Miranda a little shaken up after that play. Uteck was the one who recruited Chris Flynn, the 3-time Heck Crichton Trophy, and it was Uteck who really made the prospect of a championship to be a reality for the St. Mary's Huskies and for the Atlantic Conference. Tyler Schussler met at the 45 by a gang of Rouge.
So he recruited some terrific athletes. They had some great teams in the 90s and early 80s. There were Chris Flynn, and it was an unfortunate thing that happened to him, and hopefully Tony Proudfoot will get through this with his wife and family too.
And the legacy of Larry Uteck lives on in the St. Mary's Huskies are 10 minutes and 51 seconds away from heading to the Vanier Cup.
Number 74.
They were there in 2003. They lost to these Rouge 14-7.
Third down for the Huskies.
Their previous trip, of course, was in 2002, the tail end of the back-to-back championships when they knocked off Saskatchewan a year after they beat Manitoba for their first national title win since 1973. Another fumble on the punt, and the Rouge just can't seem to get anything going. Eric Lavich, Steve Sumera, and the Huskies may be headed to Toronto. Vanier Cup week begins officially on Monday. On Wednesday night, we will have the CIS All-Canadian Awards Gala. Your host, Tim McAuliffe, Dwayne Ford, Adnan Burke will be anchoring from the studio. I'll be there speaking with the major award winner. It's Eric Lavich up for the Heck Crichton Award. Benoit Groom complete to Guillaume Allard-Camus. Brought down by Al Berthray, the 26, a pickup of 23 on that play. And you got to figure that many players on both these teams will be all Canadians. And the interesting part is that one of the three quarterbacks who is up for the Heck Crichton Award won't be an all-Canadian.
And, you know, speaking of the two teams, he also has all-Canadians. The only ones that are going to be happy at that all-Canadian banquet are the two teams that are playing in that Vanier Cup. Nice play there by Gould. He checks it down to his 4-3. That's why he's a veteran. That's why he's a top quarterback in the country.
Drew under pressure, brought down in the backfield by Matt LeMay. And it was LeMay whose 5 sacks in the regular season had him second in the conference in that category.
Yeah, they talked about getting pressure at their front four. Coach Scott Annan said they're going to rotate 6 defensive linemen, keep them fresh. You know, Laval returns 2 guys back to that last game, but they're confusing them. Good coverage downfield again. The DBs are keeping everything in front of them, allowing that pass rush get to Gruel.
For the second time in as many meetings, the Huskies with 4 sacks on Laval. They come with the linebacker blitz in St. Pierre. It's picked up. Pass hold in by Dwayne John. Tackle made by Salim Borhat, the free safety. 17 yards collected on that play.
Yeah, you can see what happens when Gruel gets time. Good pick up there, Garash. They blitzed 2 linebackers. He had time, stepped up to a nice ball. Dwayne John down that, what we call that dig, for a nice first down. They've got to get the ball in their playmakers' hands somehow.
6 minutes gone by in the fourth quarter. That's been all Huskies. Similar to the afternoon, and it's LeMay again with the sack. 5th of the day by St. Mary's, 2nd for LeMay.
Now, once again, great coverage downfield. You know, they had a wheel route right there, but you can see the inside penetration right there. Makes Gruel step up. The other 3 guys clean it up. They're doing a great job of just rushing 4 guys and getting to the quarterback. Laval's got to protect better, give their playmakers a chance to get the ball downfield.
Well, they got pressure with 4. Now the Huskies will bring 3. With the touch, no, overthrows Victor Tremblay. It's been that kind of day for the Rouge or, even with an opening, they can't convert.
Yeah, you know what, sometimes people think it's really easy when a quarterback only has 3 men rushing. It's actually more difficult because there's 9 men back there. Difficult to find some holes and some seams, but just like you said, they're just missing the other things, you know, like drop ball, just being off by that inch or 2. And that just looks like Gruel being a little off because he hasn't played in 4 games as well.
Laval has averaged 39 points a game this season. With 8 minutes and 5 seconds remaining in this Uteck Bowl, they have put up 2. 1 on a missed field goal, 1 on a punt touchback. Here's Rasiopa. His return of 10 will set up St. Mary's from their 51. The Huskies look to be headed to the Desjardins Vanier Cup. Al Berthray of the St. Mary's Huskies, 7 minutes, 54 seconds away from the trip to the Vanier Cup. For many of these players, it would be their first national championship appearance. Huskies haven't been there in 4 years. And will it be Ted Abraham, the southpaw backup to the conference MVP, who will take St. Mary's there? Don't forget it, even in the Chris Flynn era, one of the years that St. Mary's was in the national title game, Flynn could not play because of injury, and the Huskies didn't make that decision until hours before kickoff.
Yeah, it was an unfortunate blow, but this is why Eric Miranda is the conference all-star and MVP. He makes a great play from the outside. He's active, he pursues well, he comes and crashes this play and makes a nice tackle for a loss in the backfield.
Laval player shaken up is Marc-Antoine Baudouin-Cloutier. There's Miranda, the top defensive player for that. Second half of our doubleheader is coming up. And the Western Mustangs, they began this season 0-4. They're going to Manitoba to take on the 10-0 Bisons. And hey, Western, these guys, these St. Mary's Huskies just have pulled off one heck of an upset, or are about to. Tim McAuliffe, Dwayne Ford, Glenn Sheeler, and our score crew in Canada Inn Stadium getting set for that one. And here's Alistair Blair, who had that huge 66-yard rumble earlier in the game.
Gosh, I think St. Mary's is quite happy right now. Clock is on their side, control the ball, play the game of field position, punt it, make them go long drives. You know, they're up by 3 scores right now. Laval isn't showing a thing on offense. Don't give them any type of break. Pin them deep again. Keep the ball in Dwayne John's hand, even on this punt.
This was a real confident St. Mary's group yesterday, and just being around this team, and you know, they're very adamant. They said it yesterday. This doesn't feel like our last practice of the year. Glavich said, you know, we're not tight like we were last year. We weren't afraid to make mistakes. We just want to go out there, we're loose, and that's how you want to be. Well, how you want to be is up 22 against the nation's top-ranked team that's gone all year undefeated.
That's a credit Coach Samara. He's more of a loose type of coach, you know, has a lot of fun with his players, his staff. That's shown with Glavich too. You know, you know what? He's a second-year kid, and you wouldn't even know there's any type of pressure on him in this big stage of his game. You know, he's come back. He's a winner. He showed it last week against St. FX when he willed this team to win with those big drives at the end. It's like he said, he wanted to play Laval. For the last 4 weeks, all St. Mary's talked about is they thought they should have beat Laval up there. Maybe it was the best thing that happened is they actually lost because it made them hungrier coming back home here.
St. Pierre said we were telling everybody to get over here, to get to this game, to make it loud and uncomfortable for Laval, and everything that the St. Mary's Huskies have done on special teams has made it uncomfortable for the Rouge. And Glavich, you still see some of those leadership qualities from the sidelines. He's hobbled, he can't go. And the St. Mary's Huskies over the last 8 years have seen the rise, the fall, and then the rise again. Acadia for the last 2 years has been the class of the conference, and Jeff Cummings' team took the Axemen to back-to-back National Bowl games. But it appears as if the Huskies are back, and they had those 2 back-to-back national title wins in there. We didn't get the 95 Acadia conference title with Larry Justanis as the quarterback.
What's really nice is this is Coach Samara's football team. Blake Nill, you know, did a great job with this team recruiting nationally. That 2002 team is probably one of the best football teams ever to play in the CIS, but Coach Samara's put his own stamp on his football team. It's nice to see that he's going to reap the benefits with probably a Vanier Cup berth next weekend.
His second year at the helm, he took over for Nill, who is now the head coach at the University of Calgary. Samara 10-5, the Huskies struggled last year. But not now, and not with this defense, and not with Brent Chavley and Tim St. Pierre sacking Drew again. The 6th sack of the day by the St. Mary's defense. And how do you think these guys are going to be celebrating on Saturday night?
They're sliding down that hill over there, but once again, that front 7 gives them great pressure, but it all started with everybody was covered downfield. And it's tough as a quarterback. He does a good job. You're not going to throw it up for grabs again like you did in the pop-up. But the front 7, we talked about Arash at the beginning of the game. They needed to get pressure. What they've done now is they've made them one-dimensional. Those guys are pinning their ears back and going after them. Laval's successful and they can be a balanced attack. They've thrown the ball way too many times today. And they got out of their game plan too early. They should just stick to those basics and run the ball. But you know what? Credit to St. Mary's. They got them out of that game plan as well too.
And they've disrupted the Rouge. I mean, this St. Mary's defense has been outstanding today. There's another great special teams play by Guillaume Senecal on the tackle. A little more than 5 minutes left in the Uteck Bowl, game 1 of our doubleheader. 5 minutes, 14 seconds remaining in this 2007 Uteck Bowl. Craig Legier, the third-string tailback. What a start to the season that young true freshman had. On his first 4 carries, he had 3 touchdowns. Not a bad way to start your university career. And his number called here late in the 4th quarter. The St. Mary's Huskies will be returning to the Vanier Cup. And this program is back. And what an emphatic victory this is going to be if they hold Laval to 2 points in this bowl game.
And the funny thing about that is those 2 points, those 2 guys tried to return the ball out. They didn't want to give up a point today. You know, we slipped, Hardwick slipped in the end zone there in the field goal. And the punt return, they tried to get it out as well, too. They just couldn't get it out.
And what if I told you before the game that Eric Lavich would play 2 series in the entire second half and the Huskies would be up by 3 touchdowns?
I'd say you're probably crazy, Mike. But I think there's only 2 guys that actually thought this may happen today. We talked about it earlier.
And I'm bookended by them. John Russin,
on the offense,
our spotter,
penalty, remains second down.
And you, Larry Justanis.
And what I talked about, you have a home underdog. When you have a home underdog, you got to watch that type of team. Laval kept them in the game. They had those opportunities. That big play in the first quarter, they missed it. You know, St. Mary's believed again. They thought, you know, we can play these guys. They believed it when they played up there, and they really gained that momentum, got that crowd behind them. And Glavich took over in the first half with those 2 scores.
Here's Legier trying to get to the edge. Gets by Mathieu Perron and steps out of bounds.
Coach Sonora is probably going to talk to him after this. And, you know, as a freshman, he's got to learn to stay in bounds right now. Get that clock keep running, you know. And he'll learn that. He looks like a good young back that they have. Recruited him. Looks quick. He'll be good for them for years to come.
Yeah, we want this clock to keep ticking. I hope they jack the heat in the hotel if they're listening down at the Courtyard Marriott. 4 minutes remaining in this 4th quarter. Mitchell Bowl coming up next. Western Mustangs, Manitoba Bisons. For a great week of university football here on The Score. Let's go up to Adnan Burke here at Husky Stadium.
Thanks a lot, Arash. I'm here with the pit crew. Yeah. These guys and gals, they know how to party. After every touchdown, they actually kind of swim and crawl down. Brad, tell me, when did this first start to your knowledge?
I'm not really sure when it started. This is only my 2nd year doing it, but I know that it's been quite a while and everyone loves it.
You guys, it's just a tradition, right? Now, it's not actually a roll down the hill. It's kind of like a swimming crawl, right?
It's exactly a crawl, yeah. We dive down the hill head first, and if we don't have enough speed, we just swim down the rest of the way.
Well, right now, it's 24-2, so I think it's time for you guys to do some crawling and diving. If you want to give me a stance here, let's do it. Here we go from the top. Pretty slippery. I can vouch for them. And there they are. St. Mary's Huskies fans at their finest. And they've got a lot of spirit to be swimming about today.
And then that brings me back bad memories. I don't want to see that too often.
They almost took Adnan's knee out there.
We'll get him next time, guys. Larry, we're bringing it back up here next time.
Hey, Adnan, I got to tell you, you're the only guy I know who gets the X's and O's of how to slide down a hill before they actually do it.
Yeah, we were looking at a torn ACL. I'm not going to lie to you. We'll go back to you guys. The pit crew.
And another drop ball by the Rouge. Tremblay that time. it's just a stunned Laval team. I mean, this is as uncharacteristic a performance, and as great as St. Mary's has been, drop balls, miscommunication, undisciplined penalties, all have been part of the repertoire from the defending national champs.
Coach Constantine talked about that at the break, right? Too many drop balls, too many penalties has continued on in the second half.
Here it comes. The Uteck Bowl. It's going to remain in the city where the man whose name is after it, and there is Mark Beswick. I tell you what, we may see that guy at the next level pretty soon. At the 3-minute warning, the St. Mary's Huskies are getting set to slide their way to Toronto in the Vanier Cup. There's Sue Uteck, the wife of the late Larry Uteck, and what a special moment this must be for her. Our drive of the game brought to you by Mitsubishi and Larry. It all started with Mark Beswick stripping Dwayne John to set up St. Mary's with great field position.
Yeah, and then 2 completions straight back-to-back to Warburton. Get him down the field very quickly, and then the man, we talked about at the beginning of the game, Glavich, called quarterback sneak for 5 yards and led the Mitsubishi drive of the game.
And the Uteck Bowl, which Laval brought with them to Halifax, will remain here in Nova Scotia's capital city. And it'll be official in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And Lambala pops up the football, recovered by Maxime Berube with 2:34 remaining. So Lambala said we can't afford to make mistakes. Does there, but
it's a nice run there, right at the crease, and you just got to hold on the ball. He got spun around here. He gets stuck there by St. Jean, I think, and Berube comes up with the fumble. But this, the interesting fact is, this is the best field position Laval's had all game. And, you know, we're down this side of 3-minute warning right now.
From the St. Mary's 40. Play action fake, they're going home run, they're looking deep, and it's overthrown, intended for Victor Tremblay.
Nice play by Beswick there. It was a hitch and go, basically, where they go up 5 yards, try to get that DB to come up on. He didn't bite, stuck with the receiver, and unfortunately Beswick's hurt, so hopefully
you hope
he'll be able to return.
You hope it's just a cramp. I mean, the question over the next 6 days for these Huskies is going to be the health of Eric Glavich.
Yeah, and you brought it up about Chris Flynn, the similarities of his whole era, right? Everybody talks about he's a taller version of Chris Flynn. Now he gets into the first time in the Vanier Cup, and we don't know if he's even going to be able to play next week. So we have to have some good reporting this week by the Score to find out.
Yeah, well, I'll get into Toronto on Monday, and where our coverage again begins Tuesday, 7 o'clock Eastern. On Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, our road to the Desjardins Vanier Cup. Our pregame show Friday starts at 6:30. So your home for Canadian University football remains the Score, and that's going to be a great atmosphere on the Friday night of Grey Cup week in Toronto. We'll have a panel of coaches with us on the pregame show, and Steve Samara does not want to see one of his top defensive players in Mark Beswick down right now.
Yeah, Coach Samara wants to get out of this game healthy as much as he possibly can and get ready for next week. Like he said, it's just a cramp.
So Beswick moves off, native of British Columbia. His former teammate in the junior ranks, Bob Reese, in the Manitoba Bisons, standing by in the Mitchell Bowl. Second and 10, pass hauled in over the 30. That's complete to Lavigne Maas, who has been quiet today.
You know, we talk about big plays, you know, and here's an opportunity again. Every time St. Mary's, Laval gets in his 3-3 set, St. Mary's plays cover 0, which means the free safety, there's no free safety in the middle of the field. Laval has yet once in this game to go down the pipe. As a quarterback, once you see that, you're taught, go down the pipe, get that 6 points, and we've yet to do it all game. Once again, they're in that cover zero scheme right now where there's nobody in the middle of the field.
They're blitzing with two linebackers. Drew able to avoid it. And he's going to scramble past the 20 and lunges out at the 19. Pickup of 11. Oh, and it's back to Sanchez. Excuse me. Cesar Sanchez is back in. He provides a little more mobility for the Rouge et Or.
First down. Laval. 18-yard line.
Glenn Constantine said if Benoit Gros wasn't our program, it'd be a no-brainer that Cesar would be our starting quarterback. And that's their question marks today as he avoids the rush again and forced out of bounds by Birthright. With under 2 minutes to play in this fourth quarter, and the Rouge et Or trailing by 22.
We talked about that front seven getting pressure. We talked about it throughout the game, but no one talked about the DBs at St. Mary's, and they've done a terrific job of covering these receivers. A lot of these sacks are what we call coverage sacks. You know, the quarterback's had time to throw the football. He just hasn't been able to find anything downfield. That's a credit to St. Mary's DBs, but like I said, they've had their chances. You know, there's some cover zero seams where the seams have been open, the middle of the field's been open. Laval has not attacked that.
And it was Beswick yesterday who said the reason our secondary is so good is because we are on each other. If somebody makes a mistake, as LeMay forces the fumble, and it's scooped up by Reed Anderson. The backup linebacker crosses midfield, and it's automatic now. The St. Mary's Huskies will be going to the Vanier Cup, and a defensive performance second to none against one of the top offenses in the land got him there.
This front forward's done a terrific job today. Scotty and Ann said he's going to rotate 6 guys. Matt LeMay, his third sack, comes from the blind side of Sanchez there. Strips the football. Terrific football play. But once again, he's had time to throw the football there. Scooped up.
So LeMay with 2 sacks and a forced fumble in the second half alone. And now the biggest question for this Huskies program will be whether or not Glavich will go next week. And in certain respects, Mark Beswick as well, as Blair is brought down behind the line of scrimmage by Andre Saint-Amour. Steve Samara, perhaps he will be a question mark with pneumonia after getting drenched on this cold Halifax afternoon.
I don't think he minds that at all. Right now, like you said, he's concerned. There's a couple of concerns right now. Beswick and Glavich, but you know Glavich, if he can play, you know, we might have a Byron Leftwich type of scenario where he's on one leg and this team's carrying him in the Vanier Cup.
It would be fitting because Glavich has carried this program all year.
We're talking about Glavich, but you got to give the kudos to the St. Mary's defensive coach McLean. He came in with a great game plan, kept everything in front of them, rotated 6 guys on the D-line, kept those legs fresh.
And we talked about the importance of special teams on the top, and Dwayne John has been a non-factor.
Definitely. You know what? That's Coach Samara and Terry Baker saying, you know, we're not going to give him the chance to return the ball against us. He's not going to beat us. We're not going to beat ourselves by giving him the... People neglect that. We talked about this off camera a few times, a couple days yesterday as well. Special teams are a huge component of CFL and CIS football game. And if you can take out some of these aspects of the returns and things like that and limit these guys like Dwayne John, these great returns, you have a chance in a football game.
From the zone 16. The producer of today's game is Glenn McDonald. Our director is Andrea Cucaro. Our field manager, Sheldon Alexander, battling the elements. Up here in the booth with us, our spotter, John Russin, providing the graphics for you today. Mike Pilo in our truck, and our warm truck in the far end zone. Rash Madani, Larry Justanis, Adnan Burke for this final 46 seconds. Of course, we will have the presentation of the Uteck Bowl here in Halifax.
And the celebration has been on for a while.
You know, it's interesting, Rash, is you know we're in Halifax because no one's left the beer gardens at all.
And there is that Uteck Bowl that is returning to Atlantic, Canada. Its birthplace, of course, named after the late Larry Uteck.
Repeat the third down.
Western Manitoba, of course, coming up next. And will St. Mary's play the Mustangs or will they play the Bisons? Of course, the veteran Bisons, 29 players, age 25 or older. The Mustangs with Michael Folds at the helm at quarterback. Transfer from Toledo, Randy McCauley, that tailback, the team that came out of nowhere to represent the Ontario Conference on the national spectacle.
Yeah, I think Western's got to get a lead in that game on Manitoba, or it could be a long night. Those guys, we saw them last week, Rash. They're grizzly old veterans. Like Coach Doby talked about it. For 1 year, they thought about that loss to Saskatchewan last year, and they wanted to get back into this Vanier Cup.
And Tyrone Rue makes a play. Here's a guy who was doubtful with a slightly torn MCL in his left knee, and he sticks. Victor Tremblay, a guy who's in his final year of eligibility, hasn't been to a Vanier Cup before and grew up across the bridge in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. He'll get his chance to play inside the dome in the national title game. Was committed to St. FX before an administration gaffe had him end up here at St. Mary's. Laval Rouge have 2 points on the scoreboard, the number 2 ranked offense in the country, a team that's averaged 39 points a game.
You know what? Coach Samara told us their game plan. Keep the ball away from Dwayne John. Get those special teams involved. Put everything downhill, get that front seven, have all those DBs come downhill. They played it perfectly. That's right. Laval's playmakers didn't make any plays, while St. Mary's guys did. And that's the difference of the game.
And we talked about it at the top. The Beasts of the East, Vanier Cup champions. Since early this decade, it's pretty familiar. 5 of the last 6 titles have been won by one of these 2 programs, and there will be a changing of the guard in 2007. They've won 4 national titles since coming in to Canadian inter-university sport in the 90s. Postseason of Cinderella, the slipper fits for St. Mary's. They are Vanier Cup bound.
Presentations. We played shortly. Please stay off the field.
Let's go down to Adnan Burke with Steve Samara.
Thanks a lot, Arash. Well, Coach, you slayed Goliath. How's it feel?
It's amazing. What a feeling. Holy smokes. It's a little surreal right now, that's for sure, but our guys played well, and they deserve that one today.
You've heard all year, the Rouge are the dominant team, #1 team in the country. How vindicating is this for you and your players to just step up and really dominate this game?
Yeah, well, I think it speaks volumes of what these kids are capable of doing when they put their mind to it, and they were pretty excited about this for about since we played Laval the first time.
I asked you earlier, but Eric Glavich, this was his coming out party today. He battled those injuries and showed what a tough competitor he is, didn't he?
Definitely. I mean, he is a tough kid. We had to basically force him to stay off the field. He's like, no, I'm going out. I was saying, no, you're not going to go out and hold, and he said, no, I'm going to hold too. So, you know, he's a competitor. He'll work hard to be ready for next week.
Well, we'll keep you busy during Vanier Cup week. For now, enjoy the celebration, Coach.
Thank you very much, guys.
Steve Samara will be talking to him as Vanier Cup weeks. For now, he'll be celebrating as the St. Mary Huskies have won the Uteck Bowl. Let's go back to Arash Madani.
Yeah, and you know, for Steve Samara, you got to be happy for him, a guy who played receiver with the Huskies in his university days, and now he takes his alma mater to the Vanier Cup. The St. Mary's Huskies stunned the Laval Rouge, a 24-2 victory. They have punched their ticket to Toronto and the Desjardins Vanier Cup. We'll be back.
University Rush on the Score is brought to you by Desjardins and by Wilson, the official football of the CIS.
The St. Mary's Huskies are Uteck Bowl champions. They are headed to the Desjardins Vanier Cup. Adnan Verk, where are you in the midst of that celebration?
Well, guys, congratulations to the St. Mary's Huskies on the job that they have done this season. Of course, congrats to Laval Rouge as well. Right now, it's time to present the MVP presentation for the Uteck Bowl. Bill Scholar, the honorary chair, and John Patterson, the tournament chair of the 2007 Uteck Bowl, presenting the keeper plaque to the game MVP. All right, once again, the MVP presentation, Bill Scholar, the honorary chair, and John Patterson, tournament chair of the 2007 Uteck Bowl, presenting the keeper plaque to the game MVP, Tim St. Pierre. Tim, congratulations. 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and the touchdown. Is this the best game you've ever played at St. Mary's?
It's the best day in the defensive play, man. I think we're going to smash this thing up and like 12 pieces, give it to every man on that defense, man.
What's it like? Everyone talked with the Rouge, the #1 team, and everyone talked about their defense, what they've done in the Vanier Cups. Talk about your defense today.
It was a hectic game, man. You can never relax those guys, man. It's bring it, and we stuck to our game plan. We told ourselves we were gonna bring it, we were gonna put pressure on them. So we did. It worked. We stuck with it, even in the game. So we did it, man.
Congratulations, Tim.
Thanks. Get this trophy up here.
All right, and now to present the championship trophy, Mark McGregor, the CAO of Canadian Inter-University Sport, and Councillor Sue Uteck.
Let's go, Sue.
Du match pour la Coupe Uteck, Tim Saint-Pierre. Et voici maintenant la présentation des champions de la Coupe Uteck.
And accepting on behalf of the 2007 Uteck Bowl champions, the team captains of the St. Mary's Huskies.
Alors, les capitaines des Huskies de St. Mary's, les champions de la Coupe Uteck 2007.
Adnan Verk, indeed they are champions of the Uteck Bowl. And congratulations to the Huskies. A complete performance today, Larry Justanis.
Yeah, we came in talking about Glavich and all the superstars, but what really won in the game, you know what Coach Constantine said at the beginning of the week when we asked him about the Vanier Cup, and I had 26 points scored on in those 4 Vanier Cups. Defense wins championships. Always. At St. Mary's, the characteristics of Tim St. Pierre, tough, hard-working kid, works his tail off in the weight room, works his tail off all off season. They came out, proved something. They're more physical than Laval, and they stuck to the game plan, and that's why they won the game.
5 turnovers forced by a Huskies defense that was outstanding today, and the celebration will go deep into the night in Halifax as the Huskies celebrate a National Bowl game win against a team that had not lost in 14 games. Tim St. Pierre, the player of the game, and more than 6,000 at Husky Stadium. We're watching a terrific performance by a program that is going back to the national dance. Eric Glavich, will he play next week in Toronto? That will be the question all next week. Will they play the Mustangs? Will they play the Bisons? We'll find out in the Mitchell Bowl. For Larry Gistanis, Adnan Burke, Arash Madani saying good night from Halifax. The Huskies are going back to the national championship.